bit of a name for yourself in the community as well before we hired you on. So who are you? What do you do on the game? And what do you...
Yeah, this is Tarnation, also known as Jason, of course. He's the guy who carried me in the 2v2 developer tournament. He was my 2v2 teammate, and we actually won that, which was fun. I don't recall if Marco was as well. John definitely wasn't, but yeah, that's the guy who carried me in that 2v2 cup, which was kind of sick.
What did you do in the community?
Yeah, that's correct, actually. Hey everyone, I'm Marco, one of the gameplay designers on this amazing game. You might know me actually from some of the community websites I've been part of. I don't know, 15 years. Actually, big fan of the game, and yeah, it's good to be here actually. So glad we're doing this stream.
Awesome. So, folks, if you need to stay up to date with all of the Company of Heroes news that's going to be coming, fast and furious in the next couple of months before launch, the best place to do that is on your social platform of choice, at Company of Heroes. Follow us there. You can also join co-development by...
No, I've not seen this actually. I don't know how much they're going to cover. I thought it would be like the USF deep dive, which was very shallow.
Signing up at Company of Heroes.
Maybe we skip some of these early talk.
Twitch.tv/Relic Entertainment, so you can find out YouTube as well after the fact, so you can watch those whenever you get a second. So what are we talking about today? Like I said, it's going to be all Wehrmacht all the time. We're going to be doing a real deep dive on the faction. We'll be looking at gameplay. We've got 2 matches lined up here that we're going to review. We're going to be talking about their main roster, their battle groups, and so much more. We'll also be talking about some of the big changes that this faction has seen, and answering some of your questions along the way. So if you're here live, make sure you throw those questions in the chat, and we'll get to what we can. And of course, we're going to be talking about how does the Wehrmacht actually work in multiplayer. So please ask those questions, and we've got so much to cover. So before we even jump into our discussion here, if you haven't seen it, I'm just going to play our latest Wehrmacht trailer just to get you hyped up and to set up our discussion for today. So check that out, and we'll be right back.
All right, well, of course, skip this, because this I have seen.
Awesome. I really love that trailer. I think it always gets me excited when I'm watching it. So Jason, much like we did with the U.S. forces last month, let's maybe start with the big picture. And then we can get into sort of the nuts and bolts about the Wehrmacht. I'm curious, how did the team approach the design of the Wehrmacht this time around?
Yeah, so at a very high level, we still maintain the same pillars that we did for all of the other factions.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have a huge emphasis on diversity this time around. So we wanted to build a new German army that had a lot of options and had a lot of play patterns and a lot of different builds. So hopefully we'll be able to show that off in some of the games that we play today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in terms of other things, the good old pillars of the Vermacht return.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing them as a advanced, but also a good, defensive faction. Another emphasis is that they're battle hardened and that they are very specialized. So in contrast to the Americans that are very versatile, very able to do all kinds of different things with the same units,
mm-hmm.
It's kind of the other way around with the Germans, where you have these very powerful units, but they're definitely more specialized.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and we'll dive into a little bit more of the specifics of how we kind of achieve that. But
of course, yeah. So Marco, maybe I'll throw this question to you. I'm curious, what were some of our...
I just gotta hear that again.
A little bit more of the specifics of how we do.
What is that sound?
Yeah, and we'll dive into a little bit more of the specifics of how we kind of...
It's like bonk. Is that a bottle or something?
We'll dive into a little bit more of the specifics of how we kind of achieve that. But
of course, yeah. So Marco, maybe I'll throw this question to you. I'm curious, what were some of our big goals with this faction in Company of Heroes 3, and how that might differ from what the team might have been trying to do with the Wehrmacht in past iterations of our games.
Yeah, sure. So this time around, we know that as well as for Americans, This is the third time we are building this German faction. So we tried to spice it up a little bit, bringing some cool new units.
Yep.
But at the same time, we want players to feel familiar when they play the faction. So we definitely wanted to retain some of the core elements of the army, like the HMG mainline infantry combo that you can play from the early game. And we definitely wanted also to give them more options. So one of the goals that we had was like actually to give them more flexibility when it comes down to teching, but also to have those specialized units that you really have to invest into. So you need to make the right choices when it matters.
Gotcha. So, Jason, I'm curious about where you feel the Wehrmacht kind of fits in CoH3's multiplayer when we compare them to some of the other factions that are on offer.
So, yeah, so I guess one of the big things is the Wehrmacht is a faction that's really good at fighting their opponents up front. So they're the army where they want to fix you in place and then destroy you. So in contrast to the Americans, that's a lot of emphasis on mobility, on flanking, about finding the right engagements. The Germans, to find the right engagements for them to really get the most power out of their units, they want to manipulate where you are, keep you in place, and then just fight you up front. So
I mean, the issue with this is similar to the one in CoH2, right? That it doesn't work in 4v4s and 3v3s and to some extent 2v2s as well, because there's barely any flanking opportunities. It's just, it's just one lane, and in one lane, that faction that has those tools that is really strong in a lane is going to be very strong. Could I thank your father? Yeah, thank Poyavi for your father. Yes, thank your father for you. I don't know if I did that correctly.
They're the heavyweight boxer that will just punch you in the face, compared to like the Americans that kind of want to, dance around the ring a little.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's maybe hop into our first match today and look at the faction in a bit more depth. So, folks, please just keep in mind that this still is a developer build that we're going to be looking at. So this isn't quite final. We've got bugs to fix and more polish to add. And again, that's one of the reasons why we delayed the game a couple months, or that we moved the launch date. So I think this first one that we're going to be looking at is a 1v1. And Jason, I believe this is a match.
We'll only watch the 1v1
match that you played against another one of our recent community hires, Darren, aka Mirage Flaw.
Oh, yeah.
So we're gonna be looking at this from your perspective as the Wehrmacht in this 1v1. What else do I want to say before we actually jump into this? I guess much like we did with the U.S. forces, Jason, I know it's really important for you that we cover kind of like the early game, the mid game, and the late game, those transitions, the decisions that the player is going to be making. So I imagine that's something that we're going to be talking about as we go through. So let me switch the scene here, so folks should be able to see this in just a moment as it pops up. There it is. Perfect. Right. So we have, Jason, your perspective here as the Wehrmacht, and Darren, aka Mirage Flaw, is playing as the U.S. forces. So Jason, is there anything that you want to kind of set up with this match before we really get into it? Yeah.
So to really, to those who've never played or seen anything about the Germans, when the Wehrmacht starts, they're a little bit slower than the Americans, and this is very much by design. So there comes the Kettenkrat. So basically, their starting units are a little bit less powerful than the Americans up front, though they have a specific way of using them that makes them really powerful. But early on, you're trying to get early territory, you're trying to hold on, and you're trying to build up your forces, because you can't get access to some of your most powerful units right out of the gate. While the American player gets...
I mean, visually, I think it looks really good. I don't get... Like, CoH1, do you mean like the structures or something? Because there's like concrete structures for Ver? I mean, that's just like thematic. I don't really mind that. I actually think it looks really good visually. It's not like the visuals I'm worried about. I don't know. I think it looks pleasing. It's a lot more colorful. Also, I know a lot of praise has been given to this UI. I'm not totally convinced yet. It's definitely an upgrade, don't get me wrong, but I think we can squeeze some better UIs out of this development team if we push them. Because I want more, I want better, I want more, you know. This is it's, you know, it passes, but I would like to see more improvements, especially like, do you see how little this minimap is? Like, actually, the minimap, like, actually, let me just to emphasize. So this is the actual map. Yet the UI takes this much space. Why? Why is the map half of the UI element? Why is this border not like up here? You know, it's just, it's strange. Also, I can do this so you can see better. It's like, why is the map so small in this UI? I don't know. I don't know why this is the case, and it's these areas I want to see improvements. Like visually, they're gonna pull it off visually either way, but it's like 5 years from now, if you play this for 5 years, this difference in UI makes a huge chunk in like 5 years, because you would have so much information. Like, you're gonna need fucking, you know, binoculars to see where your fucking unit is, right? Like, I use the minimap so much. I don't want to use the tactical map. That's the thing. I want the minimap to be so good I don't have to use the tactical map. And if I'm microing a little engagement here, how the fuck am I supposed to see it on this map? Like, it's... I want it twice as big, you know? So stuff like that. There's so much room for improvements, you know? Same with right side. To some extent, maybe. I've seen a lot of user or community-made unit cards that have looked way better. Like, this is so much info, right? Like, I've seen all of this implemented in this, on this card. So you could have like, the name could be a hover. You don't even need the name. However, what you do need is the logo, right? And the logo is kind of hidden here. The logo is the most important part, because that's how you connect with the unit in the buy. When you buy units from the tech tree, you see the unit logo, and you also have it down here, right? Like, this is the unit logo, and it's like almost hidden here. Other than that, you know, this info you have here, you could easily fit that on this. Easily. No worries at all to fit that on this, in my opinion. So yeah, I do like that they added a faction symbol here. This is definitely something that's been missing, for sure. So I think that's really cool. I don't know if the other factions have different like UIs overall, or if it's just this thing that changes, but either way, it's good thematically, I think. But you can improve this for sure, you know. You totally can. But yeah, let's go back to the video.
We have 6-man grenadiers. Now, there's a lot of talk in terms of what this unit is. So basically, this is your mainline infantry, and we wanted to represent the, you know, the German infantry unit without any of the fancy other parts. This is your bread and butter of your early game.
Mhm.
They're very good on the defensive, but they don't quite have the firepower of some of the other infantry units. So the Americans have their semi-auto Garands, and the Brits have their Enfields, but the
Sandbags, yeah.
the Grenadiers just have their modest Kar 98s. So they're not quite as aggressive as the other infantry units, but as a 6-man squad, they are still very powerful.
Right.
and they have a lot of good utility abilities that we'll introduce as the game goes on.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to call out,
Look how
folks
fast
probably
they
noticed right
build
away,
those.
is some obvious thematic improvements to the HUD since we looked at the U.S. forces last month. And we finally got in some of the theming that we wanted to added. Again, a lot of this was based on player feedback as well. So we greatly appreciate that, and we're starting to see the first engagement here with this poor Kettenkrad getting pummeled by these riflemen. Marco, what about you? And any sort of initial thoughts as we kind of get into this match here?
Yeah, sure. So besides the great improvements that you highlighted with the HUD, I think we should highlight how you want to play early game with the Wehrmacht, as Jason is doing. Definitely want your Catacran to be a way of the fight. So generally you would want it to move on the other side of the map, but we just lost it.
Don't worry about it. It lasted a little bit longer than Matt's Jeep, right?
That's true.
That's true. And keep the range with your Grenadiers. So ideally you want to fight long range like Jason is doing, and wait for your HMG to really make sure to protect your core points, and then when you are comfortable, start pushing the enemy with all your forces.
Gotcha.
Why
So,
don't he just breach, chat?
if I'm a new player, I've never played Company of Heroes before, or maybe it's been a while since I've played one of our past titles, and I'm playing Company of Heroes 3 for the first time. I'm jumping into a match with the Wehrmacht.
Why are these people? What do you mean, Puyavi? I think the team is really good. You really don't need to be good at the game to make it. And these players that are playing are actually pretty good. Tarnation has beaten me so many times in CoH3, dude. He just swamps me. You don't have to be good, but they are good also. So I don't get what you mean by that.
What is something that you would want me to know as I hop into my first match here?
So I guess one of the first things is the Germans have access. So when you build your barracks building, you actually have access to more units than what the Americans do. So the Americans have to choose between their weapons support center and barracks. So for the Germans, you have access to a sniper, a machine gun.
League is balanced by the top players, by the way. League is literally balanced by the top players. So if anything, that's a counter argument to yours.
And a mortar right away, as well with the Grenadier. And the Grenadier is meant to be a really good unit at supporting your more powerful team weapons. The Germans in general have more specialized units, but because there's more specialized, they are more powerful. So the MG42 team that I've built here is probably one of the best, if not the best, machine gun teams in the game, and you can build it right out of the gate. It'll suppress infantry, and it'll do pretty good damage to infantry as well. So it's a really good...
Man, I actually really dislike the fact that the logo is hidden here. I can't help it. I kind of dislike it.
Unit, and you want to be supporting this unit with your other units. And if you wanted, you could go the sniper instead.
Yeah. I guess since you mentioned it, we can actually look at the buildings right now really quickly. In the HQ, you can build the Pioneers, you can build the Kettenkrad. And that's obviously where you build out your other buildings. You have the medical station upgrade, the infantry company, you have Grenadiers, MG40.
Let's just take a look here. So opening tier 0 for fuck, do we call them Ost tier? No, we don't. We call them Wehrmacht, of course. For Wehr, you have Pioneer and the Kettenkrad. This icon here is for auto. Wait, I'm fucking covering my... I'll put it here. There's nothing up there. Okay. So you got the Pioneer, and then you got the Kettenkrad, which is not a combat unit. It can't fight at all. It only caps. Then you have this icon, which is for auto reinforce, which is basically just get close and then you reinforce. And then you have this is just waypoint. Overlay the VOD. What you mean, Dodgers? And then you have healing here as well, so you can get healing, which is similar to Soviet healing in CoH2. Yeah, auto reinforce is a toggle, so you don't have to use this. I assume I don't know, but top players will probably not use this because it can really fuck you. Sometimes you have to wait with reinforcing until you get like a unit queued up, right? So I assume this won't be used as much in top, but for casual players, I think this is just very nice. I wish this was a feature like 10 years ago. And then you have the two tech structures they can build here. It's also actually 3 tech structures, but he already built one, so it doesn't show up anymore. So you can't do 2 tech structures anymore. You can't build like 2 Panzer headquarters anymore, which you can in CoH3 for absolutely no reason. So that's a nice safeguard there for stupid players who misclick a lot. So nice to see that. So you basically just click this and then you click somewhere and it constructs without any builders, which is a bit odd. But, you know, I actually really dislike this at the start because the way it works is you have to go back and click and then you have to press somewhere, right? You have to press somewhere in your base. And this was really shitty at the start, like during the alpha, if you remember. Because if you're like fighting over here, you got your screen on the map somewhere, and then you want to tech up, you can't just like click a button. You have to go back and press this, and then you have to press where you want to place it, and you have to move your camera back to the base sector, right? In CoH2, if you're playing Brits, which is this teching is basically Brits, you just click a button, right? But here you have to click the button twice, and you have to go back. You can't really compare it to Osttier in CoH2, because Osttier in CoH2, you need your Pioneer, right, to build, but here this is just auto building. So it's basically Brits with extra steps for teching. However, they did, I think, add a feature, so you just double press or something, so you don't actually have to go back. So it's basically just Brits teching, which is fair. I do think it's a bit sad that you can't like use your Pioneers or something. I really wish they look at that like in the future. Where you have like your Pioneers and you can maybe like increase, similar to Captain in CoH2, you can like increase taking up. I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, that's how it works. It's basically just Brits taking with some extra steps currently, as far as I know. But I know as much as you guys. Not needing to use your builder units feels a little odd, since you won't have to think about retreating builder units. Yes, so it's Brits taking. You don't have to use any builder units at all. Didn't you play the open alpha a year ago, Kausak? Yeah, let's check out. This is... for some reason, we can't see the tier. We don't know which tier they are in. I presume this is tier 1. In tier 1, you have the Grens, you have the MG42, and you have the Mortar. And then you also have a different tier in this. So it's like tier 1 and tier 1.5. And when you get tier 1.5, it seems you also get the sniper. I'm a bit confused. Again, this is where the UI should be improving, in my opinion. But, you know, it's very confusing. Like, if you have units getting unlocked by this, then wouldn't it be better to have this on a second row and then have all the units that unlocks by grabbing this on the same row or something? Or maybe the sniper doesn't actually require this and maybe he just needs manpower. I don't know, chat, I don't know. UI doesn't tell you. And then you also have the Panzer Grenadier and the what's this unit? It's Jaeger squad, I think. I think that's a Jaeger squad. I think it's gonna talk about this.
The infantry company, you have Grenadiers, MG42, Mortar, and...
Let's see here. It doesn't say that it requires this, so I guess the sniper doesn't require this.
Sniper. Do you want to talk about transfer orders now?
Yes, so this is the replacement system. This was in the multiplayer alpha as well.
Or do you want to save that for the next game?
For the next.
He didn't talk about the interesting part. Why?
The medical station upgrade.
He talked about the meds and...
The infantry company.
This is obvious. Talk about this.
You have Grenadiers, MG42, Mortar, and Sniper. Do you want to talk about transfer orders now, or do you want to save that for the next game?
Talk about the interesting thing.
Okay, we'll save it for the next game. And then in the tier 3 here, that's where we can unlock the Jaeger squad, scout car.
Oh wait, he's talking about tier 2 now. He does later, okay.
So for the
Let's
next
look
game,
at tier 2.
and then in the tier 3.
Tier 3, apparently. I can't even tell which tier they are in. Man, this is where the UI should improve, shouldn't it? Like, I can't even tell which tier is this. But anyway, it's got the Jaeger squad. We also had it in this. You also had the Jaeger squad, but this, I think, you replace a Grenadier and then you pay like the difference. But here you can get straight up a Jaeger squad, and you can get
Here,
some other
that's
units.
where we can unlock the Jaeger squad.
The 2-to-1.
Scout.
The Flak 30 anti-aircraft gun team, which we also saw in the multiplayer pre-alpha, though it was kind of shit. Hopefully it's gonna be better. It's basically like a super heavy machine gun, right? It's like a slightly heavier Dushka or something. So it's actually going to do quite a lot of damage to soft vehicles like light tanks and stuff. But it's never going to replace an 80 gun, right? And then you also see what is the Verbal Wind, and I can't remember the name of this unit.
And then
It's not the Nashorn, it's the Martyr, that's it. So there's the Martyr. Yeah, you can see the building time here. Very nice. This is an improvement for sure. You don't need a mod for this in CoH3. Very cool. That's definitely modernizing. Then you also have two, again, I think this unlocks these. But we'll see if he talks about it.
Wind and the Martyr.
He doesn't talk about it. Okay.
So now we're kind of getting into the, you know, getting a little bit of action here. Jason, what is sort of your game plan right now?
So he got MP40s, which looks to be from the Doctrine, right? Also notice something here, chat. Again, this is very nice. Hotkeys on the command points, or the commander abilities. Yeah, we're deep diving the deep dive. You hope you can scale the UI. I actually hope the opposite. I hope you can scale the... Oh yeah, I had CoH2 on. Hopefully this doesn't happen in CoH3 chat. That was 15 minutes of idling in the menus. Yeah, Control F2 is not a good hotkey, but it's a hotkey. Hopefully, you know, maybe we can change hotkeys in CoH3. I'm pretty sure they already confirmed that, so that's neat. But yeah, like I was talking about earlier about UI elements.
What are your thoughts as you're facing off against this US player?
So, okay, so your game plan as the Germans is you always want to be getting into...
Yeah, I've been whining about hotkeys for commander abilities since, like, I started playing. I remember my first time playing, and I was like, how do I use the planes with the hotkey? Like, I wanted to, like, you know, use planes fast or something. It's like not possible. It's not possible. You have like recon runs that give you vision for a split second, and you have abilities requiring vision. But you have to click it, so it becomes like you're playing the fucking, what's it called? You know, the music game with your mouse, because you have to be all over everywhere, because there's no hotkeys in CoH2.
To your better units. So...
Also, he is building a 2-to-1, it looks like here. And here you can see the Grenadier abilities, by the way. You got Merge. Merge is coming back, but for Grenadiers. You have what looks like to be infiltration grenades from CoH2, basically. Which I think is from the MP40s. I think it was a different grenade until you get the MP40s. At least that was the case in the multiplayer pre-alpha. And then you get, of course, the Snare, and you get a Sprint, which it might also be from this, or maybe Grenadiers always have sprints. And then you get the med kits, of course, which is in true CoH2 Grenadier fashion, right? And then they can also do sandbags. So it's Grenadiers with a twist.
The way that the tech works is that your tier 1 is modest, but it's also really good. So
let's hear that from the beginning.
Your game plan as the Germans is you always want to be getting into your better units. So the way that the tech works is that your tier 1 is modest, but it's also really good. But in general, it's a little bit defensive.
Tier 1, modest, really good, defensive.
But then you get to go into your tier 2. So I built the Luftwaffe tier 2 building, which gives me access to some more aggressive units. So this is the 221 scout car.
I wish they just did a tech like walkthrough, and then they just could like talk about their decisions with the teching. I think that would be cool if they did. Like they just, you know, walked through all the factions and then just only discuss teching. I think that would be really cool.
Which is an early light vehicle that I can get to start pushing around.
Also, you have 2 upgrades on the 2-1. Looks like a stick and a radio.
Around the rifleman, and to basically start helping me attack the map. But as the German player, you always want to be looking to, what is kind of the
Also looks like it has native spotting scopes. Yeah, this is obviously hold fire, and this is focus vehicles. Don't know why you would focus vehicles. This only has a machine gun, right? I guess it's for the stick upgrade. And then you have reverse.
Powerful units I'm aiming for, because there's a lot to aim for. There's Jaegers, there's Panzer Grenadiers, there's the Wirbelwind, the Stug. There's a lot of good units for you to kind of...
Flares! Yes! My best ability.
Want to get to. Because, again, your tier 1 is a little bit more modest.
Hopefully they're not as common in CoH3. Hopefully, flares. Because, you know, it's always been an issue with flares. Flares have always gotten nerfed 1 million fucking times. And it's still really good. Yeah, you know, having free vision for a duration that you can't counter is apparently quite strong. So hopefully there will be less flares in CoH3. I think this came from the mortar, but I'm not sure.
Than the other factions, but your tier 2 is also a little bit cheaper than the other factions, so you do get to it pretty well.
Got the flamethrower.
So it seems like you know, Darren has fairly decent map control. Yeah, he's kind of on the back foot a bit, but you know, he's got victory points over on you right now. But you're definitely applying quite a bit of pressure across this entire map. So are you just trying to keep him off balance and trying to like force him to fight you in those like, you know, frontal engagements, or what's the next step here?
So one of the things that we didn't, I think, was a little bit off camera there, but I caught 2 of his infantry units with the machine gun and forced them to retreat.
Is that a snare?
There, but I caught 2 of his infantry units with the machine gun and forced them to retreat.
Right.
So that's kind of that. So while I say, you know, the German early...
Very nice actually to have side hits in CoH3. Very cool to see.
Game is a little defensive and a little bit modest. It really depends on how, like, your skill, right? If you manage to outmaneuver his infantry with your machine gun, or vice versa, that's kind of determines who wins. So,
he's using the infiltration grenades.
So again, because I caught his rifleman out, I was able to force.
It was dodged though.
And that's
also very curious.
So
that's a very curious retreat path, isn't it? Is it just me reacting here? That's a very curious retreat path. Is it only me?
Machine gun, or vice versa.
Look at its retreat.
That kind of determines who wins. So
it's running the wrong direction. His base is on the right
because
side.
I caught his rifleman out, I was able to force them to retreat, and that's when you saw me kind of attack his side of the map. And here he goes for a big flank, but I think I catch him with both the armored car and the machine gun, and I kind of shred this attack. So I'm again on the front foot. Again.
You think the Greyhound looks bad? Really? I think visually the game looks so good, man.
Early on, this is kind of the Americans' time to shine in a way.
Visually is definitely where they nailed it the best.
I'm gonna have a temporary like power play.
Gotcha. So Marco, maybe this is a bit of a bigger question for you. But you know, just like the
medics picking up bodies
with the USF, you know, the Wehrmacht have been covered in the franchise before. So I'm kind of curious what some of the major changes are that we're going to be seeing as the scout car gets chased away.
Oh!
Major changes.
Guess we're going Greyhound on launch, chat. Look at
that we're going to be seeing as the scout car gets chased away.
Get fucked, Pioneer. 3-man squads. You fought 4-man squads in CoH2 were bad. Can't wait to use 3-man squads.
Now, but those poor Pioneers. Yeah, so what are some of the big changes with the Wehrmacht this time around? You know, is it mostly about their roster? You know, is it about buildings and teching, or is there something else here that's going on with the Wehrmacht that players should be aware of?
So definitely, definitely teching is a big part of how you play the faction. This time around, you have a different kind of approach to the way you tech up after your main.
Oh, so the Jaeger squads get the Panzer Shreks. The vehicles look kind of shiny like plastic. Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but still, I don't think it's as bad as people say. I think it can be really difficult to distinguish metal from plastic when you work with 3D models. But I'm definitely not worried about it. Because I think it passes now, and I think they can only improve still, so... I mean, you know, they also have all of these different things going on where, like, the vehicles change during the game. If you drive through dirt, it will become dirty. If you get shot at by a machine gun, it will have bullet holes. So I think that's quite cool. The skin DLC. Of course there will be skins. We already know this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It legit looks like a toy game, while CoH3 looks like a black and white movie. What would you rather play, a black and white movie? Do you still watch those?
Initial building, your barracks, your tier 1, because you have
Oh, what was that?
building, your
Reconnaissance package. Unlocks flares? Flares on main lines? Are you for real, Relic? Yeah, that's not gonna remain in the game for very long, I hope. Scoped rifles have increased accuracy against units in cover. Nice bit of information. We should also said how. Is it sniping ability, like JLIs in CoH3? I wonder. They also have, I think that's the camouflage icon down there, it looks, and a smoke. But no snare, it looks like. Yeah, it's a 5-man JLI, looks like.
Your barracks, your tier 1, because you have you can choose one of the two other buildings that allow you to basically focus either on elite infantry that is better on long range or elite infantry that is better on short range. So they are not like a progression
for the snare.
tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, but more like tier 1 and then 2 tier 2 options that the player can play around and choose the strategy. And we believe this is a great approach also for team games, because it allows you to really play different strategies and without having to rely on battle groups.
Oh, that must have hurt Jason, losing your scout card there.
Yeah.
I ran out of munitions, the Panzerfaust is there around the corner, and then it's like, oh no, now he hunts me. But yeah.
So going back to the point, in this game, for example, Jason went
MG.
for
Run,
the
MG.
company, so he's going to rely on Jaegers, our long-range specialists, which are like very, very good.
Oh.
Jaegers, our long-range specialists.
So this is the breakthrough battle group. So if you didn't know this, chat, battle groups work a bit different. It's essentially commanders from CoH3, but with a twist. It's like each commander in CoH2 would be a CoH1 commander, basically. So you have this tree, basically. This is one single commander that you select at the start. You are allowed to bring in 3 commanders, just like in CoH2. So you basically select 3 commanders for your faction when you queue up. And then you select one. And they selected breakthrough here. And then you have this tree to go down. So basically you unlock more and more, more powerful abilities when you get command points, which you basically use up. It's not like in CoH2 where you sit on like 17 command points after 40 minutes of playtime. You know, you get one here and then you spend that command point. You remove that command point so you don't have it anymore. And then you basically buy abilities. So he decided to get these 2, which I suppose were cheap. He has 3 now. So he can go for the right side, or he can, you know, finish grabbing one. Which I really like this system. I think it's really cool. I think they can do a lot of this with like in the future. So I think this is really nice. Because, you know, you can kind of combine it, right? You can do like one ability here and then you can continue here, which I think is cool. Yeah, dynamic, exactly. One thing I think is bad about this though is if you look at like CoH3, you have commanders that are like really good early game, where, you know, you get a lot of shit very fast, very passively, for instance, which is like, it's kind of lost here because you unlock every single thing is like an individual unlock. You have to wait and then invest in. That's the only real like what do you call it, negative about it. Like in CoH3 you can select like defensive doctrine, which gets you a lot of early game, and then that one late game ability. You can't really do the exact same here, though you can do something similar, like you can have cheap abilities and then expensive ones, so it's not that big of a deal. But it's like, you know, you don't get like camouflage guns for free anymore, or stuff like that. But I don't know, it's a small thing. Yes, multiple smaller abilities or rush the expensive ones, yes. Tiger could cost you 4 CP in total. I don't know, but it's going to be easy to change either way. I don't know if they've shown any tiger. This might be a tiger here. It looks like that. And if this is a tiger, that would be 9 plus 3 plus 1, right? So it would be 13 command points in total here to hit the tiger. If that's a tiger, I can't fucking tell. I think it might be, though I do wonder what this is. The middle one. This is ability. This looks like spearhead ability. I think. Though I might be wrong, but it's this icon is from CoH3, so I would think that this is going to be replaced. They still have some, like these are obviously from CoH3, right? So these are obviously going to be replaced. So they still have some placeholders left. So don't judge everything. Like the icons are really non-descriptive sometimes because it's old placeholder icons still.
Which are like very, very good squads. And he's also complement that strategy with grenadiers with MP40s, thanks to his battle group. So he has a bit of everything right now.
Right. Did you want to cover the breakthrough battle group, Jason, since we're talking about it?
Yeah, so we'll get into more detail on this in the 2v2. But basically, we made sure to build in a lot of different strategies for the German players through the battle groups. And one of the big ones in the breakthrough is the assault grenadiers. So the MP40s that I bought on the grenadiers is not actually part of the base faction. That is a doctrinal ability, and it allows my grenadiers to really start to punch keep up with the riflemen as the game goes on. Because normally they can have a little bit of issue attacking riflemen because they're usually good at holding ground. But if you get the MP40s on them, they start to become a pretty powerful assault unit because they get assault grenadiers, or assault grenades, and they get pretty good damage. So, we'll talk about the other points in the breakthrough a little bit later when I get to use.
I wonder what that icon is. What could this be, chat? Is it a timed ability of some kind?
They get assault grenades. But if you get the MP40s on them, they start to become a pretty powerful assault unit because they get assault grenadiers, or assault grenades, and they get pretty good damage.
Combined armed bonus? Well, it's got a timer, so it's not a passive with the vehicle, though that also seems to have something. I'm not sure.
So, we'll talk about the other points in the breakthrough.
Suppressive fire could be, yeah, Ferric.
A little bit later when I get to use them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so looks like you finally got out your Flak 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went for the Flak 30. It's actually a 5-man. That's interesting. Why is it a 5-man? Cool, nonetheless. I really like, thematically, this unit is so cool.
I was saying to you right before we started broadcasting, I was like, I love this thing. It feels so strong right now. And it just feels like a very versatile unit. Obviously, it's
like, why is the Bofors in CoH3 a garrison that you place? Why is the Bofors in CoH3 not something like this? This is so much cooler.
Slow, it's a crew weapon, but I feel like it just shreds.
Yes. And this is another thing. So, like, again, as you can see, some of my tier 2 units are coming online as the game is reaching the 10-12 minute phase.
As you can see, it has an arc, so it's like a Dushka on fucking steroid. That's what this is. It's a fucking Uber Dushka.
And this is the Flak 30, and this is a very powerful anti-infantry, anti-light weapon. So this is also fairly effective against light vehicles. It's not amazing against them, but it can kill them. But mostly this is a very powerful long-range anti-infantry unit, and you can see it in use here. It has a suppression ability that you can pay munitions to use, and oh boy, you can watch this one gun basically control this area against 3 whole American squads.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, I just love it so much right now. So someone was asking in the chat about whether you can change the position of the global unit command, and yes, you can. So with a lot of our internal testing and whatnot, it's funny because even some of us diehard CoH3 fans actually really enjoy the global unit command down here, sort of left of center at the bottom. But yes, you can toggle it to be up top right if you're more comfortable with where it was at in CoH2. So now it seems like you've got Mirage Flaw here on the back foot. What's your next decision point here? What's your next strategy?
I go for a big attack here. Yeah. I'm confident. I just forced away 3 units with 1 unit, and I didn't even really take out all that much damage. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna see if I can fix Darren in place here, because I know if I sit on his cutoff, he needs to come and attack me, right? And that's what I want.
Sit on the cutoff, he says, but it's not really true in this regard, is it? He's got 3 fuel points connected without this point. But, you know, I don't blame Jason for not seeing this because the map is so small. But, you know, he's still connected.
So now I have my machine gun set up, I have my AA gun set up, and yeah, he has to come and attack me. As you can see, it'll be pretty difficult for him. And I get some good trades and some good fights in.
Mm-hmm. It seems like he's got a pretty substantial force that he's coming at you with, though.
Yep, but and I just used the merge right there. So Grenadiers now have.
Can this being retreat?
Those who played CoH2 will recognize from the conscript squad. So Grenadiers are adept at just basically adapting to whatever squad they want to help. So you can move them over, and they can go and reinforce squads that are injured, and they will just basically.
And this thing seemed to be shit at suppressing, though.
So
that's 4 birds at point blank. Maybe
he wants
it can't
to go for the wipe on the weapon,
suppress.
but he just doesn't have enough.
Oh, just missed it. Too bad.
And he might
That's strange. That's really strange.
Oh, and he smokes the machine gun.
Yeah.
It's an ability? Yeah, but like... Guys, it's a fucking... Why shouldn't this suppress? It should suppress natively. Okay, he did say it's a money ability. Huh. Yeah, it should definitely be suppressing, in my opinion. I mean, look at what the fucking gun is, you know. Okay, well, it doesn't suppress.
Probably kept that.
That was going to be my secondary trap. He like clears the machine gun, or the AA gun, and then he gets caught by the
I was thinking more like a Maxim, you know, you can activate an ability to increase suppression for a small duration.
I mean, it's very, very like tense back and forth, but it looks like you
oh,
got
here comes the verbal wind. Is that a hold down? Looks like hold down, also has blitz, and of course anti-air focus, which is nice.
So is this kind of a power spike for you right now, or
yes.
do you, okay?
So now I'm getting some armor out, and Darren is definitely not prepared for this at this point. So again, once again, I kick him off the map, and as you can see, I'm really starting to get more and more control of the map. I now have 3 VPs, and I'm starting to encroach on his side of the map in terms of resources. And this is just the benefit of getting a lot of good trades. Darren's got a good play.
I really like the bounce animation.
Like the
so
last
cool.
There, but it doesn't quite even out a lot of the trades that I got earlier on.
Right.
And the one thing I just wanted to quickly mention, so the tier 2 units I've gotten, just to review a little, is I've gotten the Jaegers out, I've gotten the AA gun out, I got the scout car earlier, And then now I have the Whirlwind, which is what we consider like
Holy
a
shit.
5 unit.
That 80
So
gun
in the
is
tier 2, you have to buy
doing
an
a
extra
number.
upgrade to unlock this unit. So it's a bit later. But
Right.
the thing I wanted to mention is
Yeah, so he got this, which is a side tech to unlock these two. But the UI doesn't really tell you then. I think this could be a bit more obvious.
most of my my hitting power came.
Yeah, so you can see here it
But
was
the thing I wanted to mention is most of my
150 manpower and 50 fuel to get these two.
my hitting power came from these units. These are the units that kind of allowed me to up trade against the Americans and take temporary map control and start, pushing on the map. Because if they're in a scenario where they're strong, they are really strong. So like there was that case where the machine gun or where the scout car just shredded through the rifleman as they tried to flank. We had the case where the AA gun just shut down like a whole infantry attack. And now we have the Whirlwind that basically blunted his attempt to retake the map.
It looks so fun, dude. No, I really like it. Honestly, I really like it. I mean, I remember even the multiplayer alpha. It was garbage, but it was still so much fun. It felt like a modern game, you know. Played CoH3 for so long, you know. It feels so smooth. It's very nice.
By basically just forcing off all his infantry.
The bloody
Right.
flares, though.
So Marco,
That's gonna need a nerf.
what do you think Darren would have to do in this situation as the USF player to try and get a foothold again in this match and try and come back?
So I think right now, if you look at the match, Jason is in a very strong position, so it's going to be hard to recover. But if you look at how we describe the factions, like Wehrmacht is one of the factions.
Small pet peeve here again. I know I've been pet peeving a lot in this little reaction, but you can see here on the commander, what do you call this? Commander list. Oh shit, has chat been blocking that the entire time? If you look at the commander like abilities here, right? You know, you've got 3 abilities with hotkeys and 2 that don't, you know. 3 of them are activations and the other 2 are passives. Like, isn't there a better place to do, or a better place to put these? Personally, I wouldn't mind if you have your tier 0, right? You can put all the passives in there, even the ones from the commanders, just to get them all in one location. Here you have like everything, and if you want to take a look at what that does, I guess you have to hover, but it's still like it's, you know, these are activates. Am I making any sense here, what I'm trying to convey? You wouldn't put like UI elements that you don't click on. You wouldn't put that. You put the UI elements that you actually interact with, right? Everything else you should be tucking away, because you're never going to interact with these 2. So why not only keep the activates and then move the passives, like hide them somewhere or something? Or maybe just make it clear, like the only difference you can tell here is the fact that these have hotkeys on them. That's the only difference between these 2. Otherwise, they're like 2 abilities you don't really know anything about, you know? CoH3 was the same, yeah, but CoH3 did a lot of things wrong. For starters, I don't like that commanders was always up on the screen. Have they talked about sponsoring some big streamers outside of the community? Not sure what you're referring to, Payavi. Yeah, it's like see the entire tree at the same place. Yeah, kind of, yeah. I mean, you use these so rarely, right? Maybe like you use this off map once per game. Why is it always on screen? Meanwhile, I'm gonna build 4 grenadiers every single game, and 4 grenadiers are tucked behind a tab, you know? Isn't there a better way to do this? That's what I'm thinking. But I don't know.
Faction that doesn't really need to flank you. They are strong when
And I mean, these 2 you never even interact with because they're passives.
they are well positioned, and then they push you forward. They push you backwards. So one thing I think Darren should have done is actually trying to cap the sides of the map, trying to avoid the fight until he got a weapon to really stop the Whirlwind, like a Chaffee. And what he's doing pretty well actually is using the the scout flare and the smoke grenade to really
Granted, these icons are very small, so I don't super mind them.
try to stop the HMG and to scout for where Jason has positioned his units. So right now what Darren needs is a bit more time and to prevent to be base pinned by that Gribble Wind, either with a Chaffee or a T-gun, and try to cap the sides of the map. While right now I think that's Jason
This is
capturing the
CoH3,
northern.
Chingy.
So yeah.
is that another
One thing I
vehicle?
will say is that
What is
this
that?
build, as some of may have noticed, is really good
It's
against
a
infantry.
Chaffee,
I have
yeah.
a flak gun, I have a flak tank, right? Jaegers are also really good against infantry. And the only real anti-tank, dedicated anti-tank right now I have is the Panzer Shrek. And the only
So this is the Blitzkrieg ability. Global increases vehicle speed, rate of fire, and vehicles are harder to hit when active. So this is basically USF. What's it called? The USF, I want to say combat. Yeah, by how much? Good question, James. You're gonna have to make another mod, it looks like. Yeah, it increases. You don't need to know anything else. Yes, 5% or 100% doesn't matter. You know, it increases. Combined arms. Thank you, Lars. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Though this does not have a requirement with infantry staying close by, it looks like. This is just straight up a global passive or global active. It looks like. Also, it says timed. Does not say by how much. I guess there is a vision indicator how long the duration is, at least when you activate it. You don't get to know beforehand. Maybe it's 5 seconds, maybe it's a minute, who knows. Yeah, I've been quite frank about it before. I mean, I talked about it ever since they first revealed stuff. We need more information, right? We don't want another game where everything is hidden away in third-party sources that are not up to date. That sucks. It sucks to find information when you're relying on third-party sources that are not up to date. So hopefully this will improve. I hope this is just because they're still doing balancing, so they don't want to put any actual numbers on anything because they're still doing balancing. But yeah, this is definitely something they should look at, or I hope they look at.
real anti-tank, dedicated anti-tank right now I have is the Panzer Shrek on the Jaegers, which is really good.
Reduces the build time of vehicles from production buildings by... It gives a number. It gives a number. That's nice. And then, yeah, this is how they should do it. Give the fucking number, and then do the vague-ass description below it. That's how you should do it. You know, you got the number, and then you do the vague... Enables vehicles to be manufactured at blistering speeds. You know, then you have the... It's like, you know, in card games, if you've ever played Magic, you have the actual numbers of what the card does. And under that, you have flavor text. That's what it should be. It should give you the numbers and then do the flavor text.
But that's it. So the main weakness...
Also, I would really like, if you hover over this, that the icon is actually here as well. Because you don't have any icon here. I think that would be an improvement. Small, but nonetheless. Causes area of effect damage, causes burn damage over time. You could add a lot more numbers here. Again, you could add damage, but not only damage, you could have like travel time, time to ETA, right? Estimated time of arrival, you know? It doesn't have to be a hard number, but you could do like something like within 10 to 20 seconds or something like that. I think that would be cool. Because that's one of the most important parts about off maps is the time it takes from calling it in to actually landing. You know, the best abilities are usually the ones that are really fast. That's too much info for a casual gamer. I mean, you can still keep the vague-ass casual gamer flavor texts below. You don't have to decide, you know? Or make it a toggle.
that Darren
Rapidly airdrops smoke pots onto the battlefield. Here it says rapidly. Is it 1 second? 10 seconds? Half a minute?
can exploit here is the lack of a dedicated heavy anti-tank. And that's actually an inherent weakness of this build that I've gone for. So the Luftwaffe, actually an inherent weakness
Oh yeah,
of
that's just the
this build
grandiose
that I've gone for. So the Luftwaffe building basically gives access to some of the more powerful anti-infantry units, and they're generally the more aggressive tier that allows you to really get
Martyr here. It also has the hull down, and I don't know what this is. Some passive ability, it looks like. It's not the binoculars or the spotting scopes, because we saw that on the 221. That's something else. I don't know what it is.
early game control, and it's really succeeded. Like this is an example of this strategy really succeeding. But its main weakness, and not to spoil too much, you'll see it a little bit later, is that it does struggle to deal with armor.
What? It says Axis full screen? Oh, you mean when I have it? Yeah, that's YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm not
Right, but you
in-game.
did just pull out your martyr, which is obviously
If it's like CoH3, could be locked down to increase range. Interesting.
anti-tank vehicle. So what's your sort of game plan with the martyr and the whirlwind right now? Is it just to keep that pressure and hold the map, or are you trying to be a little more aggressive here?
So I'm trying to shore up my weaknesses here. As you can see there's a Chaffee, and really the only anti-tank I had to do with 2 light vehicles was just the Panzerstrike Jaeger, right? And so if he caught me in a bad spot or whatever, I could be in a really nasty spot. So I wanted to shore up my defenses here. Yeah, trying to poke
Good explanation.
Right. So while we watch this, I guess my other next big question is about teching. We've talked a little bit about it, but Marco, how do the teching options for the Wehrmacht look this time around?
That looks a lot better.
You know,
I guess
how
it's
am I
gonna
kind of
take a look at it
upgrading and
later as well.
progressing through my buildings, or how am I unlocking upgrades to ensure that I'm staying ahead of my opponent?
So actually teching this time. Oh, actually, wait. There is a whirlwind might go down.
I don't remember what happens
It might go down here.
Around the
There
corner.
is.
No!
Oh.
Lost it.
So as I was saying, he should have flanked in the north and trying to avoid fighting the whole army, and that's a good thing that Darren did actually.
Yeah.
So very good from him. Going back to your question, so this time around we are bringing some flexibility so that after you tagged for your tier 1 and you build your tier 1, you can access either pretty much every other building.
I don't think so, Clinker. This is not a gameplay POV. This is a caster POV. So I don't know.
It really comes down to the amount of resources you've got. So you could potentially go tier 1 to tier 4 and build your tanks, but that's a
Why is the martyr not shooting? Does it not have line of sight?
big risk because you really need to like wait
Oh, and the
a lot of
blocking.
time before you would get
Goddamn,
a
Jason, what are you
attack on
doing?
the field. So if
Sabotaging his
you're
own
really
units.
having a great early game, then you might try
Man, this martyr seems to not have been a good investment. It's done
to
nothing.
attempt that, but it's going
And
to be a very
everything has
risky
died
start.
since it appeared.
Or what you can do is either getting your Luftwaffe company, which is the one that Jason used this game,
It jinxed
or
him.
the mechanized one, which is the one that gives you the more like anti-tank, short-ranged weapons that you can use, and then decide to attack for your tier 4, which is actually the Panzer company, which is the one that Jason just
It didn't have a barrage ability when we just looked at it.
So now
I
that
don't
the
think so.
Panzer Company
So here we got, I don't know, this looks like tier 4 to me. You got the Brumbar, you got what I don't know what this is. Could be a Panzer 4, but I'm not entirely sure. And then you got the Obersoldaten 2.0. And then you have 2, I don't know what, other side techs here. So I think one takeaway from this, just looking over everything, it's very much UKF in some areas, is it not? Like you just press for teching up and then you have a shit ton of side techs. And I don't mind it. I don't mind it if it's done correctly. But UKF in CoH3 was not done directly. The side techs were all really dull. So So hopefully these side techs are not dull. Hopefully.
To compatriots, but
Was this where we
As, like,
were?
per
No,
squad.
we were.
different.
Oh, did I zoom this far?
In the southern front here, and he's moved a lot of his units up into the and hopefully I can show off some of their power.
Okay,
as
he
this
will.
game goes on. But one thing I actually wanted to quickly touch on.
Oh, he
is
did get a Panzer
now-
4. Also got hull down. I don't know, does all Wehrmacht units have hull down? Because I think we've seen it on every single one, and I don't see it on the commander portrait. Man, it would be really good if they had all the passives in one spot so you can find where he got hull down from. Or maybe just every single unit has hull down for Wehrmacht. I'm not sure.
Like Darren's kind
Also has Blitzkrieg.
of smartened up a little in terms of not taking on my army in the open, in the like to the face in the southern front here, and he's moved a lot of his units up into the north where there's a lot more shot blockers. You know, the terrain isn't as open, and it's really not as conductive to my team weapon play.
Yeah, I don't know where hull down is from.
And
I have
as
no
you
idea.
can see, immediately I start suffering a lot of losses, and it's just more difficult for me to play because that kind of like again, the Germans are very specific in what they're good at, and if you're able to create a scenario where they can't use their main strengths, then you know you gain a really large advantage, and that's how he's kind of pushed back into this game now.
Right. I just wanted to cover a couple
Getting blasted.
player questions that we're seeing in Twitch chat. Jason, this one's for you about balance. This might be a bit of a tricky one, but will single player and multiplayer units be balanced the same, or will they be separate?
They will be. So right now we are doing our best to keep them as similar as possible, but they will have different too.
Okay, so it won't be like CoH3 where multiplayer balance will affect the single player, you know, a couple
It
years
won't
down the
break
road.
the single player experience. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Especially as the game gets older and older, I see the divergence growing larger.
Mhm.
Right now, there really isn't a big difference between single player and multiplayer, but I can imagine that growing larger as the game goes on.
Yeah. Another question was about the pioneers with the smaller squad size. Do we feel that they're going to be less useful in combat, or do we see them more as like the specialist and support role?
So they are much cheaper. So they're 125 manpower for those who don't know.
125 manpower pioneers.
So yes and no. They are
That martyr has been such a mistake. It's done nothing, and now it's just gonna happily explode, I think.
Yes, they're less powerful than their 4-man CoH3
Yes.
Patriots, but for their cost, they're quite good. They're a little trickier to use, but if you get them into the right spots against the right units, they will be pretty good.
Awesome. Some other really good questions here. Keep them coming, folks.
They have the amazing flamethrowers.
Yeah, those flamethrowers.
I'm just saying it jinxed him.
Right,
Pax.
Marco. I know you wanted to talk about some of the battle group hotkeys and maybe some of our decisions there. Yeah.
Hotkeys.
Yeah, actually, some players might have noticed it, but we have actually hotkeys also applied on battle group abilities, which is something that
champ.
our player base has requested for a long time now. So expect some news about the hotkeys, because I know that our players would like to get customizable hotkeys, and there are only good things coming for you.
Okay, that's good to hear.
That's a broom.
Trying to think if there's some other good questions here that I'm seeing in the chat.
I would also like to touch upon veterancy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so also because this is, again, the third time
Jesus,
we
the
approach
MG.
veterancy, so it's good to talk about it.
Boom!
Whoa.
That was
There we go.
Shot!
That was a
So
fast
say hi to the
arc.
broom bar.
You wanna
As you
mention
can
about the
see,
Bloombar
it's
first?
a dedicated anti-infantry unit.
So Brumbar also has hull down again. I don't know where they got it from, and it also seems to have the, I assume it's the CoH3 Brumbar ability, where it's basically becomes a bunker buster, but also a anti everything for a mile away. So interesting that it still gets that.
It is very expensive, but it is very devastating to anything it hits, really. It's not great against vehicles because it's a slow-moving shot, but if your tank isn't smart enough to move out of the way, you will suffer. So
Those are
yeah.
also light vehicles. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yes.
Sorry, Marco. Did you want to go back to talking about veterancy?
Absolutely, yes. So I will start talking about like the broader approach to veterancy this time. So we wanted to revisit some of our like CoH3 approach. So this time around, veterancy is going to be much harder to get, except for maybe the vet one, which is still like your main way to get your vet ability. But for the vet 2 and vet 3, you
Tank
really
riding.
have to sweat a lot. You really have to show that you are using your units the way they are supposed to. And that comes from many factors. So you can get veterancy from combat, from kills, and this time we are focusing our attention on kills. So you're still getting veterancy from damage, but we want you to get higher vets if you kill your opponent units, especially if you kill the whole squad.
Right. Sorry, no, I was going to ask because I think you briefly mentioned the veterancy upgrades that the Wehrmacht has in its buildings, but before we got distracted by the Brumbar, did you want to touch on that a little bit?
Absolutely, yes. So this time around, for Wehrmacht, each building has an upgrade that enhance the veterancy.
I mean, you can't complain about the visual, chat. Again, it looks fucking phenomenal. Is it only me? I think it looks sick.
Acquisition rate, and it gives them the
Oh, until that happened, that's a bug for sure. Look at the barrel of the pencil bore.
veterancy acquisition rate, and it gives them gives the units.
I don't
for
know what's
that
going on there.
building The vet one. So this is a sort of both veterancy, but it shouldn't be seen like the same kind of power level you get in CoH3, where you could basically you had to choose: do I want to get do I want to spend my resources on veterancy, or do I want to spend my resources on
The chopper, man.
on the attack building? This is mainly your way to get the immediate vet one ability. So there's
Wow,
not
it's
much
penetrating
in
every
terms
shot.
of power spike.
Every
of the
shot
unit,
is
of the
penetrating.
stats, but more about
Why?
it's more about the vet ability.
Right.
Chaffee.
Yeah, poor Chaffee is unexpectedly running into this Panzer. So Jason, I know that some players may be hesitant about something like purchasable veterancy. So I'm curious what like the balance or design decisions were.
God damn, that Chaffee though.
On its face, it might sound a little bit scary, or like, oh, they're making the same mistakes they made last time with some of these systems. But what's our approach this time around with how the system works, especially for the Wehrmacht?
Yeah. So if you click
Another
on one of the
fucking
production
mess.
buildings right now,
Yeah, can do.
every building has what we're calling an officer quarters.
So every building has what they call an officer quarters. This promotes all units from the Luftwaffe company to Vet 1 and increases their veterancy earn rate by 25%. So this sounds like a total fucking no-brainer to me, especially for that cost, but I guess that can be tweaked. I mean, this is one of those abilities that's probably you're always going to pick up, or you're never going to pick it up, because like once the game has been out for 5 months, it's going to be solved whether or not this is actually worth it. So I think this is a dull ability in my opinion. But we'll see what else
If you
they
buy
have.
this upgrade, what it does is that it upgrades all of the units that come from that building to Vet 1. So whether or not they're built already, or if you build new ones.
Then you got the infantry officer quarters. This is in tier 1. Promotes all units from HQ and infantry company. It's the same thing.
So
Yeah,
all
that's kind of dull.
past and present units. And then they also increase their veterancy earn rate by a percentage. So the goal here is basically
It's literally okay. Yeah, I think they could have done something a bit more sexy here. I don't mind it, but still, I feel like it's. I guess if you could, it kind of promotes all ins on one tech, which is, I guess, kind of cool. Yeah, it could be cool, but still, it feels kind of dry, doesn't it?
a little
yeah,
bit
we'll
of
simply
CoH3
have to see.
where
It's
you
too early
can
to tell.
purchase your first level veterancy, which is really important because it gives you access to your veterancy ability, and it also jump starts your path to Vet 2 and Vet 3. But you can't buy the other tiers, unlike in CoH1. And kind of the goal here is that, yeah, as the German army, you can kind of field some veteran units. But to really get to the really, really powerful levels of veterancy, you still need to earn them in combat. Yeah. And one of the reasons why we did it this way is we kind of wanted players to be able to invest very heavily into a tier. So, you know, in this game, I actually didn't mention it, but I did buy the officer quarters for the tier 1 building, which allowed me to get Vet 1 Grenadiers, Vet 1 machine guns. And I have a Vet 3 Grenadier, and I had a Vet 3 machine gun for a moment there, but it got wiped.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So it looks like you're close to winning this, even though taking significant losses throughout.
Yes and no. So yeah, so here is actually, so you know, we were kind of talking about vets through the whole thing, but we did a lot of vehicle trading. We did a big fight in the middle there, and we traded a large part of armor. And again, the main weakness of the tier 2, the mid-game decision that I went, is that my AT is just not good. I don't really have an AT gun. I don't have access to an AT gun either. So this Jaeger with the Panzer Shrek is kind of the best I have. So I'm very vulnerable to being overwhelmed by armor, and Darren finally built up enough armor to really kind of exploit that. And he's still kind of exploiting it, because every time he forces off my Jaegers with infantry, my Panzer IV, while very good, isn't exactly good enough to ford off multiple American armor units.
Right. And when you say
I mean, this chaff is so MVP. It's killed like every single tier 4 unit. It killed the Broom, it killed the Panzer IV right now.
Multiple times.
Yeah, when you say you don't have access to an AT gun, you mean you just didn't prioritize one earlier, right?
Right, yeah, sorry. So an AT gun is definitely in the faction. So if you want the other tier,
has seen some
that
shit.
is a little bit more robust.
That chaff is still not Vet 3, by the way.
It's not quite as aggressive, but it does give much better, like, later game options. You would have access to an anti-tank gun, but the Luftwaffe tier does not have it.
Gotcha.
But that's kind of the pros and cons of going this tier. Is, again, you get a lot of powerful anti-infantry units, which allow you to really play aggressively early. But again, it does leave you vulnerable as the game goes on and your opponent accumulates vehicles, because it's not impossible, because again, the Jaegers with the Panzer Shrek are quite good against tanks, but they're not as good as, say, like you know, if you got 2 AT guns out of the game.
Right.
And you can build Stugs out of the other tier as well, which is also a really reliable anti-tank vehicle, and I don't have access to that.
So I think you mentioned to me that this is kind of the point in the match where everyone ran out of steam.
yeah, like, I've killed most of Darren's infantry, and he's killed most of my vehicles, so...
and your infantry.
We're both scrambling to get put back on the field. So one of the units I do get here, finally, is the Stoßtruppen.
Right.
And, oh boy, they do a lot of damage.
So they are basically the Obers. They get infiltration tactics over the bundle nade, but they also have the Bland, the Korp, whatever. And they have some passive here, it looks like.
They're actually akin to, like, the Obersoldaten from 2. They're really powerful late-game infantry. And they come with assault grenades and a wet phosphorus smoke. They don't do anything against vehicles, so they're still weak. They're still vulnerable to vehicles.
Does that unit only have
against
one
infantry? Good luck. You need
it's only a single Shrek squad.
Or some supporting fire to really deal with it.
Right. So Marco, I don't know if you have anything else to add about you know, some of the late game decisions here, but like, what do you think? If I found myself in this position, like with most of my army being wiped and I need to secure the victory, my enemy has, you know, the victory points now. What
Yeah, of course they get still tapped
do I need to do?
Armor, but they shouldn't get one tapped, right?
I need to call a tiger.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I think Jason is about to do.
Yes.
He's getting.
There's the Tiger, costs 700 manpower, 180
I
fuel.
would like to touch
20
upon
pop health.
actually 2 aspects of the game we haven't talked about. The first one is that we are going to have some quality of life improvements to the game in the form of auto reinforce on your HQ. Talked about. The first one is about to do as he's setting. I would like to touch upon actually two aspects of the game we haven't talked about. The first one is that we are going to have some quality of life improvements to the game.
What does he say?
In the form of
Quality of life, I think,
auto
right?
reinforce
Quality of life.
on your HQ.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, give the tiger a few seconds to shine.
Say hi. This is the good old tiger. German fans
Obersladen just walking
rejoice.
through. That's clearly a bug.
The
But
Tiger 2 is here.
can he reinforce from the tank?
So the sorry. So this comes from the breakthrough battle group that I kind of had in the background here, and this is kind of my late game insurance here. And as you can see, I'm moving all of my units together in a tactical attack formation, otherwise known as a blob. But I'm concentrating on my force here because I know he has more units. But the tiger gives me the opportunity to really catch him off guard. So he just attacks me here, but he's attacking me from the front, and he's not going to have a good time because the tiger has some really good armor.
Oh, the choppy god
and
died.
you can just see those shells pinging off the front plate of the tiger. And the
How is that Ober squad already vet 1, by the way? It's done nothing except for dying so far.
tiger gives me the cover to wipe all his infantry units under it,
Right.
which allows me to actually get back in the game here. And yeah, I think this is a really close one, but yeah, I get the final shot there as well. So now I'm back in business. You know, he almost had me dead to rights there, but now we still have a game to play.
God damn.
So we can say that actually Jason pursued a strategy that allowed him to save enough. So he basically
Like a Kubel getting vet. Wait, the Stoßtruppen has. Maybe they do. Maybe that's what that icon is. Maybe they get shared veterancy.
all his early to mid game advantage was actually
Was there an 80 gun there? I don't think there was.
Formation, otherwise known as a blob. But the tiger
This is not an 80 gun, by the way.
gives me the opportunity to really catch him off guard. So he just attacks me here, but he's attacking me from the
I mean, this makes sense. This is like a Stuart. This is literally a Sherman, and this is the only thing that's doing damage currently. This thing, whatever the fuck, Hellcat, I think it's called, right?
front, and
Tank destroyer.
he's not going to have a good time because the tiger has some
Yeah, this I don't think has a single chance of
really
penetrating.
good armor in the front, and you can just see those shells pinging off the front plate of the tiger.
What I am surprised is the infantry getting unfazed here. I feel like this thing should really have suppression. It's such a scam if it doesn't have suppression. Why would you ever build this if it doesn't have a suppression? It's an arced unit. Like a machine gun would do better versus infantry than this if this doesn't have suppression. I think it really should have suppression. Otherwise, no one will ever build this thing. It does a ton of... Yeah, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you lose from the front. He literally dies from the front here to 2 squads that's not even focusing it. You know, it should really have suppression, I think. Or else you run into a Bofors issues. There is an activated ability, yes, they showed it off earlier, but still, it's like... I don't see anyone ever building this if it doesn't have suppression, because a machine gun is just going to be better. A machine gun can suppress, which means you automatically wins versus like 4+ units. I mean, this is what the Bofors should have been, but it really should have suppressed as well. It just makes sense. You can't retreat the thing. It's a machine gun. It's a machine gun. You're gonna retreat from a machine gun as well. But this doesn't suppress, which means you don't have to retreat. You can literally just run up to this and kill it from the front, like you see it right now.
The tiger gives me the cover to wipe all his infantry units under it,
Right.
which allows me to actually get back in the game here. And yeah, I think
Yeah,
this
really
is a really
underwhelming.
close one, but yeah, I get the final shot there as well. So now
It doesn't
now I'm
even kill the obers. It doesn't even kill the one-man obers in like 6 bursts. I swear a machine
back
gun
in
would have done
business.
that, you know?
You know, he almost had me dead to rights there, but now we still have a game to play.
So we can say that actually Jason pursued the
A machine gun here probably would have saved the American player, because then the Shrek squad would get suppressed and everything else as well. So a machine gun here would actually do a lot better.
strategy that allowed him to save enough. So basically, all his early to mid game advantage was actually saved for this late game unit that allowed him to come back when
Gotcha.
he was on the losing feet. And I would like to touch upon the victory points, because we have made some substantial changes here to the way you actually win or lose a game. So this time around, we are speeding up the way you.
If you give it suppression, why would you get an MG? Well, they're still different units. Why do you get a Dushka over a Maxim, Pax? Why do you get a Maxim over a Dushka? This thing literally can't retreat. And it's probably going to be way more expensive than a machine gun. Of course there's a trade-off, they're different units. But suppression, it's a machine gun. If it's a machine gun, it should have a suppression, right? If it's not a machine gun, then it's not a machine gun, you know? Then why does it have an arc? It's like, this won't see use. Ver already has a premium doctrine-less MG. It has the MG42. I'm not getting your... How is that dumb? Now it's never going to see play, because why would you get the thing? It's nice to see the base building there blocking the the shot. I've actually not played Dawn of War 2, no. It claps infantry. Well, clearly not enough. I think it's been really underwhelming from what I've seen. But I only saw this match.
Lose victory points when you have the advantage, or when you are on the back foot. So if you have the 3 VPs,
Oh, he flanks me
then you're
here.
gonna feel it.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, that's a big flank.
Uh-oh.
Oh, nice grenade.
3 riflemen from the flanks, killing my infantry. Oh no, my 2 weapons too.
It's the same aim. Yeah, I watched it earlier. I don't think it did that much then either. I feel like a machine gun would do better in every single situation we've seen it in, but...
That tiger might go down.
I don't actually remember what happens here.
Oh, I think it has enough HP to survive.
Oh no, he has a new Hellcat!
The Hellcat?
Oh.
Oh, that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh no, he has a new Hellcat! Oh,
The rear hit.
that's a hit.
Maybe one more?
Oh.
One more to get it done? Do you think it'll happen?
Oh, it's a boost!
Wait,
happen?
what? It got 2
That's a
tapped?
hit.
Maybe one more?
Oh.
One more?
That's enough HP.
Oh, because he got
Oh no,
snared.
he has a new Hellcat!
Oh.
Oh, that's a hit.
Maybe one more?
Oh.
One more to get it done? Do you think it'll happen?
Oh, it's a boost!
Oh, and the smoke.
Success.
Too funny.
That's all skill right there.
Yeah, very lucky answer right at the end.
Yeah, that's true also, the Monoga, right? It's like thematically, don't you expect that gun to suppress? I sure as hell do, you know? If my little pooper Maxim can suppress, then why doesn't that thing suppress, you know? Thematically, it makes more sense.
So, one of the other...
Yeah, it is a game mechanic. It's a fitting thematic. Like, either way, if it's good or not, that can be fine-tuned always. You can increase the cost, you can lower the cost, but I think it really should have. It really should have. This is not a balanced discussion. This is just, should it have suppression? And I think it should, personally. Otherwise, you know, I can't wait for that Reddit thread that's going to be every single day, where people post, hey, I put a flak gun facing this infantry blob, but he just A-moved and killed my thing. Yeah, of course. I'm not talking realistic. It's thematic. MG42 infantry team suppresses, same MG42 mounted on a tank doesn't. It's just a different unit. Good point, good point. But I mean, thematically, the MG42 on the tank doesn't have an arc. I mean, we don't have to talk balance here, because everything here will probably change balance-wise. And I'm sure, you know, balance is easy to change post as well. They can just tweak some numbers. You know, the slider guy with a wrench can fix shit that's broken, and it can buff shit that's useless. So I'm sure we'll see some play of it, mostly because it's a very cool unit. But still, should it not have fucking suppression? I don't know. Feel like it's wasted otherwise. Because you want the thing to stop blobs, but it's not gonna do that. Oh well, we'll see.
Questions I had. Obviously, we've shown quite a bit here in this first match, but Marco, what are some of the new ways to play that are going to be on offer for fans, you know, with the Wehrmacht and this faction? Like, what are some of the new things that we might be bringing to the table with this faction over CoH1 and CoH2?
Yeah, the grass here clipping through. I'm not sure if that's intended or not. It looked like it had a larger range. It does have an arc, so it's not the 360 degree. If it was a 360 degree unit like the Bofors, then I agree it shouldn't have suppression, but this is not it. It has an arc, so if it has an arc, then you can flank it, but here you don't need to flank it, because you can walk up front of it and kill it. And it's also a bit annoying, because you can't like retreat it and reinforce it. You have to walk back. Or maybe it's just meant for... It's only meant for forward reinforce. That's the only time you're gonna use that thing. Maybe. I don't know.
So, well, you have seen some of the units. So
Noah had an arc.
For example, the flag and...
Oh, the next prey to try to duel the tiger. Prey number 5.
Oh.
Oh, it pens.
Yeah, you
But
have to
you
jump
still
that.
Through the
killed
front
so many-
plate too.
Animation, though,
And
it's like rolling. Look at that. After it dies.
Ah, damn it.
went down.
Yeah, you
But
have to
you
jump
still
that.
Through the
killed so
front
many-
plate too. Jeez.
And we want to I want to call out this specifically. We want to prevent German players
Sherman fired one shot on the tiger and got vet 1. That's kind of funny.
to just be able to, oh yeah, and no field immediately another tiger. So we are actually putting the cooldown starting from the moment you lose the tiger.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so they did the CoH2 fix here, which is nice. This is good improvement, but once again, I can't wait. Call-ins are once again going to be fucking disastrous. I bet for a couple of months, probably even years. But let's give them a benefit of the doubt here, Chan. But I think call-ins are going to be completely fucking busted, and it's probably going to take them multiple balance iterations to actually get it right again. But yeah, having this from this get-go means they're at least aware that they are probably a bit too busted, right? They know this is going to be an issue, which is, you know, at least that's a nod to hopefully they know what they're doing. So this is good to see, because means they know. And, you know, let's have it a bit funky at the start. It's still kind of fun, I guess. But we'll see. But still, just the fact that there has a timer once it dies, that means they know.
Thought I can afford another one, but
Yeah. But it's actually a good quality of life change, because we want to make sure you can't just call tiger after tiger and just play with that.
Good. I
So
like
yeah,
to
in
hear
regards
that.
to units, I think we are going to see that also in the next game.
Very
We're really
nice.
trying to use both the core armies
Also, Jason is literally scamming his opponent here. He went for a sneaky back cap. He literally went full. What's that league player that like jumped with Kassadin back in like 2015 or something? He jumped like around the inhibitor, not the inhibitor. What's the nexus, right? He jumped around and backdoored. I don't remember his name. Maybe you guys do. If you watched X-Packet, thank you, X-Packet. Yes, he did an X-Packet and backdoored, and then he's smoking, completely scamming his opponent here. So that's kind of cool. Cool ending, I think, because 5 VPs.
Allow players to play very different strategies.
GG.
And GG. My favorite one is using the Luftwaffe battle group. I don't know if we will see that.
We see the after stats here. I don't know how accurate these numbers are. But we can see it's you got the overview here. At least it starts at the overview, compared to CoH3, where you get like some random unit showing up that did nothing, and it's the MVP. So yeah, cool to see this. I hope there's a lot more. We can't really see the other tabs, but I hope there's a lot more information. I want the Age of Empires 2, you know, the 20 tabs. That's what I want. I want 20 tabs of information after my game to really be able to analyze it. And I hope, obviously you have graphs here, so you're gonna have timelines. And it looks like you can have individual unit stats here, but I want way more than that. I want like manpower wasted on reinforcing. I want manpower wasted by having more units. You know, the manpower attrition you take when you have more units on the field. I want stuff like that. I want like fuel income from basic nodes. I want like fuel income from fuel nodes. There is no basic nodes in this, so that's making much sense, but still. You can see like what point I had in my what point I cover or held the most time, you know, and stuff like that. That's what I want to see. Just more information about everything, I think, would be really cool. Dealt versus taken does not line up. That is true, and I believe this is probably has 1,000 reasons. 1, this is not finished, and 2, probably a bug that CoH3 also has, meaning if you deal damage to neutral objects, they also show up here. But yeah, cool.
That next game,
Yep.
but
Yeah. Sorry, a lot of that post match stuff. I didn't want to show that because a lot of that's work in progress still. Okay, that's awesome. So while we transition to the next match here, Jason, I'm wondering if you want to maybe talk about again, like maybe some of the decision points there for that match, and again, some of that typical flow that you might have in a 1v1, and how that might differ in some of our team games that are going to be coming up.
So yeah, so just to kind of, you know, reiterate what happened in that game. So early on, the Germans are a little bit more modest. They're not bad, but you know, they're a little bit on the back foot.
Right.
And most importantly, they're relying on the machine gun, which has certain strengths and weaknesses. So if you can expose your enemy in the open, or like get them where you want them, you can overwhelm them, right? But especially early on, when you don't have as many units or as much vision of the map, it's harder. But as you go on and you get into your tier 2, you can start accumulating these really powerful units. And as you build more and more of them, they start to cover each other's weaknesses as well, and allows you to get some agency on the map and start forcing your opponent to do what you want to do.
Right.
And you know, if you can successfully get him into the right place, you can basically overwhelm him with the superior firepower that the Germans have, which I think I kind of demonstrated in that game a little. And then you can then translate that into getting more powerful units that are in the late game of the German army. So whether that be through the battle groups of the Tiger or the Panther, or just, you know, Panzer IVs and Brumbars, they're all good stuff. So that's kind of the general game plan in a 1v1. In the 2v2, it's more of there's more of a countering going on. You want to be basically looking at what you want to be adapting to what your opponents are doing. Because while you can, it's easier to get access to the more power units. So same goes for your opponent, and your opponent can also get the counters to your army in larger numbers as well. But it's still very much the similar flow. There's just a larger emphasis on adapting and countering to your opponent.
Gotcha. So Marco, I know one of the other things that you wanted to kind of shout out as I load up this next match here were some of the maybe some of the improvements because the last time players had a chance to actually go hands-on with multiplayer was last December with just the U.S. forces and the Wehrmacht. So there's been a lot of changes since then, and I think you kind of wanted to talk a little bit more generally about just some of the aesthetic changes, graphical changes, audio changes, and again maybe some of the actual multiplayer game changes since then. So yeah, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think compared to the last time our players could touch the multiplayer, the game has gone through a lot in terms of improvements.
Yeah.
Those that players will see from this stream will be mainly focused on the HUD, the graphics. I want to call out the graphics because it has really improved. I know that there is still a lot going on, but what we are focusing right now is we want units to really stand out. So we want to pursue unit clarity, and I think our graphic fidelity is really high. On very sunny maps, maybe this is less noticeable. But when you start playing on maps with like dusk or like different times of the day, you're really starting to notice the difference. And then another point I want to touch is I can't wait for you guys to experience the audio of the game, because it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I know that we are focusing on our commentary right now, but the audio in the game is truly standing out, and it has improved a lot. And
I can't wait till they talk about this.
Over time.
I think, Marco, you and I were actually in the studio yesterday, and
prepare to laugh,
we all
chat.
got hauled into a room with the audio team to watch some matches with like the amazing audio surround sound system that they had in there.
Talk
and
about the game.
It was killer. I mean, and there's still like improvements that are.
Did you
being
guys
made
see that? Did you guys fucking see that? Please, someone tell me they noticed that. Yo, Aljosa, by the way. Did no one fucking see that? Alright. There's a call in here. It's called a Fallschirm something. I'm sure they're gonna address it. Do you see where he spawns? It's a 0 command point call in that drops in with a plane at minute 0.
I think, Marco, you and I were actually in the studio.
So
yesterday,
he instantly drops him on
we all
the
got
fuel
hauled
point.
into a room with the audio team to watch some matches with like the amazing audio surround sound
call-ins are
system that
gonna
they
be
had in there.
fine,
It was just like it was killer. I mean, and there's
Just,
still like improvements that are being made there. and
Now you
things that are
know
coming
what type
online.
of shit we're dealing with. He could literally drop him here or anywhere like outside the base and just immediately slam that bad boy in a garrison.
So yeah, here we are in our next match. This is obviously a 2v2. You know, it's been a while since we've shown off a 2v2. I believe, Jason, this is your perspective in blue, I think.
I believe so.
And Marco, were you in yellow?
Yeah, most likely.
And then on the USF side, we also have Mirage Falah again, aka Darren, and some guy named John, because you needed another body to bully around in this match. So we're not going to focus on my play. We're just going to focus on your play, and we're not going to commentate on how I played this match. That's the deal that we're making right now. So Jason, approaching this 2v2 early game, what are some of your decision points here? Maybe Marco as well. What are you thinking about as you head into this match here?
Yeah. So I want to first point out I have gone for the Luftwaffe battle group, and I to the astute viewers who saw the plane that pair-dropped at the very start of the game, this is basically a completely different way of playing the Germans. This is giving you access to Fallschirm Pioneers, which are pretty powerful early game infantry that also serve as engineers. So those who are looking for their powerful but squishy 4-man squads from CoH3, look no further than this, because this is how you get. This is a certain pattern of play that we're allowing players to do, and this is completely different from going your normal Grenadiers way.
Right, and the Fallschirm Pioneers actually cost like 0 command points, so you can pick them right away and like airdrop them on the other side of the map, which is a very fun way to throw off your opponent.
Yes, it allows you to also do some interesting things out on the map really early on.
Right. So Marco, what about you? What decisions are you kind of making over here? As I think you're fisting up
I'm
against
just having
Aaron?
some pasta.
I spotted
Pesto.
you actually in the northern side. So what I did was I'm trying to think about how can I flank you, and now I have like a very strong position. I went for the same battle group that Jason used last game, so I went for early MP40s, and as you can see, they are pretty powerful, especially in the short range. And now what I will do is actually, I think I'm going to use the two Grenadiers and the FMG to force you out of that position.
I think this is actually Darren. Yeah, because I think
actually that's Darren.
Yeah, I was playing against Jason and he was picking on me a lot. So
yeah.
we'll focus up here.
You must be right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jason obviously locked in the Luftwaffe battle group pretty quickly. Which battle group did you go for here, Marco?
I went for the breakthrough, the one with the tiger.
Yeah.
So we can actually quickly talk about the differences in the battle groups. So Jason picked a battle group that offers a lot of options in the early game, and it's more focused into your early to mid game power spikes, while mine offers a good early game option in the MP40s, but then it's more focused on getting you that late game heavy tank in the form of the tiger. So they are pretty different.
Right. So I guess my question more broadly about battle groups is, we talked a lot about them with the U.S. forces on our last live stream. So I'm kind of curious, Jason, when approaching the design for the battle groups, especially with the Wehrmacht, or maybe just how do they differ between the factions, and how did we maybe approach the battle group design with the Wehrmacht in mind?
So one of the big goals, again, is of this whole game is diversity. So we definitely want to give players as many different play patterns as possible. And another thing about Germans or the battle groups is it allows players to kind of adapt to certain maps or certain play styles that they want to do. So as you can see with mine, it really allows you to play aggressively with infantry early. So I mentioned in the previous game that the normal tier 1 for Americans, or for Germans, is a little bit defensive, right? It's not bad, but it's modest. However, if you go this battle group, you can be like, no, I want to play very aggressive right out of the gate, and this allows you to do that. If you go other battle groups, for example, you can play a little bit slower in the early game, but get more power in the late game. Also, for example, this battle group has a big emphasis on defenses, though my opponent here is doing a really good job of not letting me actually secure this part of the map. But this battle group also gives you access to emplacements, the flak gun, 2 centimeter flak gun, and also the 88, the legendary 88 anti-air gun.
Notice the animals, chat. There's fucking goats. Or is it horses? I can't quite tell. It's kind of cool. They seem extremely unfazed about what's going on, though, but, it's kind of cool.
Which can be really powerful, and you can really entrench in place with powerful infantry and good emplacements. If you go the other factions, you can get, or the other battle groups, you can get really powerful armor, and you also some really powerful strikes as well.
And it looks like you're dropping your first Fallschirmjäger squad here as well.
Backing Marco up a little on his big attack in your center.
Sorry, Marco, I cut you off there.
Yeah, that all good. So touching upon that, I would like to highlight that there is a war going on between the two airborne battle groups, the Luftwaffe against the airborne battle group for the Americans. And I don't know if you noticed before, but you, John, used you paradrop your airborne squad to actually force Jason out of the south side of the map.
Again, I don't want to give myself credit. I'm pretty sure that was Darren that picked Airborne and was making those smart plays. I think I went mechanized for the Americans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
But still, it was a good play because you can actually.
God damn those falls though. And thank you, Duffman, by the way.
And back
in your center.
Like they drop in.
Sorry, Marco,
and they kill everything.
Yeah, that all good. So touching up on that, I would like to highlight that there is a war going on between the two airborne battle groups, the Luftwaffe against the airborne battle group for the Americans. And I don't know if you noticed before, but you, John, used the you paradrop your airborne squad to actually force Jason out of the south side of the map.
Again, I don't want to give myself credit. I'm pretty sure that was Darren that picked Airborne and was making those smart plays. I think I went and mechanized for the Americans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
But still, it was a good play because you can actually use the fact that you can airdrop your units behind enemy lines to help you with a flanking maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a very viable strategy. Oh, those false Shimegas may go down.
Yeah, they might go down.
No, I should be good.
They got away. They got away. All right. So we're 7 minutes in here. Jason, what are some of the decisions that you're making?
For those that missed it and just came, I just want to show off again what happens at minute 0 of this match. So funny. We're almost there. All right.
More improvements.
Minute 0.
I think, Marco, you and I were actually in the studio yesterday, and we all got hauled into a room with the audio team to watch some matches with the amazing audio surround sound system that they had in there, and it was just it was killer. I mean, and there's still like improvements that are being made there.
Minute 0, calling
online.
In fucking paratroopers on the fuel.
Yeah, here we are in our next match. This is obviously a 2v2. It's been a while since we've shown.
It's insane.
And also some really powerful strikes as well.
Yeah, like to side. Okay. Use the fact that
I think we were here.
You can airdrop your units behind enemy lines to help you with a flanking maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a very viable strategy. Oh, those false Shimegas may go down.
Yeah, they might go down.
No, I should be good.
They got away. They got away. All right.
Why is he throwing grenades instead of breaching? Why is he not showing off the new mechanics? Surely this unit can breach when they haven't before this round.
So we're 7 minutes.
Oh yeah, there is a dog, chat. I know there's a dog here. This little bunch of white pixels. It's a dog. It's very, very just unfazed about what's going on, similar to the goats.
Those false Shimegas may go down.
Yeah, they might go down.
No, I should be good.
They got away. They got away.
Yeah, they get the infiltration
so we're
grenades
7
with
minutes in here.
before the package.
Jason, what are some of the decisions that you're making? Looks like you
Are those
you
Piats?
upgraded your Fallschirm
Grenade launchers. 85 munitions for now.
Pioneers with the grenade launcher. What's your next like power spike? What are you waiting for to
Dog
sort of,
means
like,
free food,
more pressure
banned.
on the U.S. forces here?
Instantly banned,
So
my dude.
so the power spike with the Jaegers is kind of what like I was hoping to do a lot of damage with, but I'm just running
I like how this guy in the open is considered green cover.
into a lot of American infantry, and I'm not really getting as much success with machine gun. Darren's actually doing a really good job of flanking me this time, and just basically attacking me.
That
from
grenade
all
launcher
angles.
actually
So I'm a
seems
little
pretty
bit
good.
on the back foot here. And it comes at a really nasty
Yeah, that
time,
launcher
too,
seems
because
ridiculous,
now is
doesn't it?
kind of when I need anti-tank.
Mhm.
And again, we've done this pattern where if you specialize,
Imagine getting
heavily in
flamethrowers when you can get
you
that.
generally make it so that you do have this weakness that you're exposed to vehicles. So if you look at my army right now on the bottom, I have basically no dedicated anti-tank, so I'm sweating a little. I'm debating whether or not to like. Okay, can I cheat
I think it has the Piat placeholder icon from CoH3 on it. I don't think that's finished, or maybe it looks like that. I really don't
a
know.
little bit more and get more anti-infantry and get back out on the map? Or no, do I need to play safe and get some anti-tank? And
Oh, you mean the actual
I don't
weapon?
exactly remember what I do, but I think I am teching towards some kind of anti-tank option.
Gotcha. So when it comes to the battle groups, I'm kind of curious, how do the Wehrmacht battle groups complement the core roster that we've built out here? Like what are some of the gaps that we're hoping to fill with the battle groups?
So yeah, like again, the allowing players to play aggressive when the core faction does not is one of the big ones. So again, the MP40s on the Grenadiers or the Fallship Pioneers allow you to play aggressive in the early game if you're not a fan of like defending with Grenadiers. Another option and another thing with this emphasis is that you can play less with team weapons. The core faction has a bit.
Man, that grenade launcher makes them win every single engagement. You squad in cover, grenade launcher, squad in the open, takes 0 damage and forced away, and it's at 1 HP, you know?
A big emphasis on using these powerful
Like
team
10
weapons,
LMGs on
but
that
you
thing.
don't have to use them. You can invest your money into vehicles, for example.
Meanwhile, a fucking virgin flamethrower
you get
here.
access to half
doing
tracks
nothing.
in the Stug D, the short-barreled stock, or the 8 rack.
What was that?
Stug D, the short-barreled stock.
Open cover bonus, minus 25% received accuracy. Huh? Open cover bonus? So this squad gets a bonus in open cover? So you don't want this squad in a green cover? Or was it, maybe he's playing USF, so maybe he selected his bonus from the Vet 1? Yeah, Vet 1 skill, maybe. Yeah, minus 25, no, I think they meant minus 25. Because it's an improvement, right? Minus 25 is good. Plus 25 would be the opposite, you would take more damage. So I think it's from Vet. So he selected one. USF has 2 options when they get to Vet 1, right? He probably selected the open cover bonus. I just got a bit surprised that there was a UI element showing up. Wonder if your opponent sees that.
Or the 8 rack, which allows you a completely different way of playing the mid game. You can be like this mechanized, very mobile attack instead.
So Marco, you get out your whirlwind here. How's the fight kind of going on your side? What are you thinking about at this point in the match?
So I think this
like
game,
that too.
I went for.
It's gonna take forever for people to learn what everything is, though. It's gonna literally take forever.
Whirlwind, because I noticed that there were mainly infantry units.
Because, you know, even in CoH3, people don't remember all the Vet 1 abilities, and that's only 1. Here you have options of 2, so you're going to see them less, and probably use them less. But you have 2 separate options, so no one's ever going to learn that thing, unless you spend thousands of hours.
That the focus on the American player was to get like the team weapons and the paratroopers, and the Whirlwind is just
the
answer,
the Nebelwerfer.
And also, just to touch real quick about the topic before about the battle groups, I also think that in this game shows really well that Jason could use the Luftwaffe battle group to completely skip the Grenadiers and replace the mainline infantry with another unit, which is also an option that we're giving players.
I was very sad about getting this. I thought my AA half track would survive, but then the whirlwind kind of caught me off guard here.
Really, John?
If you notice, this game we are playing very different strategies. So I went for the first tier 2 option for my Luftwaffe company, and I'm getting the Jaegers, I'm getting the whirlwind.
Also, I'm starting to think here. Did the Nebel thing also have it here? Because they have gotten 2 different doctrines now. Oh, we can't see because they don't have observer mode. It's literally a player watching. Because it seems every single Wehrmacht unit gets hull down. And it's not doctrinal. So we don't know where hull down is from. Also, still gets a presumably Vet 1 ability. Might be a stun shot, similar to CoH3. But we don't know. Could just be like something like heat runs or something as well. Yeah, every single Wehrmacht unit seems to get hull down. Which is, you know, hull down is so crazed for being such an interesting and fun ability that they have to put it on every single unit. I just love hull down, man. I can love hull down. That's cool
and
to
I'm
see.
getting the Jaegers, I'm getting the Wirbelwind, while Jason instead went for the Nebel Warfare, so some more indirect fire, and he's the one getting the Stugs. So he's the one helping me out with the to fight against the ATs, like vehicles and look at that.
Turbine.
ATs.
Whoa, did that bounce?
Like vehicles and
There's
look at
that
that.
No, it didn't. Where are the shots from? It's like popping in the air.
vehicles and look at that.
Turbine.
Oh, it's the Neb.
Just
Oh,
in
it's the
time.
verbal. What's it called?
Just in
Verbal
time, yeah.
winder.
The Stug to counter the Sherman.
The verbal winder is bouncing up in the air.
so-
Oh, that's so sick, man. That's so
when,
cool.
it comes,
So,
when it comes to the
Stay
battle
away
groups,
from the Whirlwind, please.
yeah. So when it comes to the battle groups, I'm kind of curious. How do they compare to one another? Obviously, we've been talking about a lot of the options that they present to you, but what are some of the core strengths of each of these battle groups? Jason, maybe you can talk about the Luftwaffe battle group since you picked it, and then we can go through the others.
Yeah. So the Luftwaffe puts emphasis on some early game options, particularly around
waffles?
the infantry that it gives you, and it's just an infantry-focused battle group, infantry and defensive focus.
Repair bunker and probably reinforce. Well done on creating art versus Orange Pest in game 1 on Sunday. Yeah, you can submit that in my art contest. Winning any game of your choosing. Kappa. No, but cheers, eh? I'm gonna watch that sometime. Watch back minute 30 to minute 50. Cool. Yeah, well, it was a lot of fun. A bit sad I lost, but I did talk about the tournament yesterday, so.
So if you open up the tree again,
Oh, sorry.
you can
Yep.
Also, that's an opal.
he immediately satchels the bunker. Goodbye. But yeah, so emphasis on infantry supported by basically powerful defenses, which are emplacements, and then some powerful airstrikes.
Okay. It's just epic play after epic play. Cheers, dude.
Which are emplacements, and then some powerful airstrikes to give them some offensive striking power. So it's a pretty decently well-rounded battle group, but a little focused on the defense. The other two battle groups, so the mechanized is very much about changing your mid game, having a really aggressive mid game that allows you to basically kind of avoid some of the.
Dude, that grenade launcher is so
and then be
busted.
really mobile and really aggressive. And then that's also the battle group with the super arty, if anyone remembers from the last video.
Right.
And then finally, super
That's
arty, if
very
anyone
green
remembers
smoke.
from the last video.
Right.
And then finally, we have the breakthrough, which is the one I played last game with the MP40s, which is all.
It's something I've seen being mentioned a lot, actually,
Arty, if any,
by other players. Why don't they color code the smokes? Like, if you have a team here of blue and yellow, you could do like yellow and blue smoke. Of course, in different shades, so that it's somewhat like still semi, but just a slight tint, you know? Maybe we could have like green undertones and then make it slightly yellowish. It's not a Piat, it's a grenade launcher. It's anti-infantry. So it's like a super strong flamethrower and it kills everything. Looks really strong. But yeah, I think color-coded smokes would be really, really cool to see, personally.
anyone remembers from the last video.
So you could
Right.
tell
And then
who
finally,
did what.
we have the breakthrough, which is the one I played last game with the MP40s, which is all that one I think is also probably one of the better, well-rounded battle groups as well. Gives you something nice early on with the MP40s on your grenadiers. But it also gives you some economy options. So one of the picks that I didn't actually get was the supply truck, which allows you to lock down points and then actually increase your income from them. So on certain maps, it's really good for accelerating certain strategies. And then obviously all of that so that you can get to a late game type.
I got it this game actually. So if you go check in the north, there should be one.
No,
somewhere.
I don't think you have it yet. I think you
Yeah,
get
no,
it.
it's there. It's
Did
there.
it survive?
Martyr.
The munition bar.
Oh yes, there it is.
Oh, it's right there. Sorry.
You got the utility truck, yeah.
So I wanted to bring up a bit.
Kind of nice to see that at least this thing doesn't have auto reinforce, because I feel like that would be very annoying. Very low APM.
The topic of defensive. Why Wehrmacht is the we named it to be that defensive faction. Well, if you check both the Farsi pioneers
I've not heard
and the
too much,
Grenadiers,
John, but
they're
the
basically
stuff
the
I have heard has been pretty good.
only mainline infantry that can build sandbags, which gives them a unique way to play when you go capture points.
Well, the thing is, this is way more zoomed out, Stefan, so you shouldn't be negative about it. If you zoom in, they look good. They look really good, I think. It's like everyone keeps talking about the visuals. Like, I think the game looks amazing. Did it have auto reinforce in the alpha? Was that truck even in the alpha? I can't remember. I mean, there was some doctrines, but they were kind of... No, there wasn't even doctrines, was there? You only had, like, the marshals. I think. I don't remember, but I remember the marshals. Yeah, I think you're gonna see it once you're actually in game. It always looks worse on video, and this is just not me saying that. I am very critical of the game when it deserves it. And I think performance, no, not performance, but visual fidelity is definitely one of the best things about it, for sure. It looks fucking gorgeous. Talking about the American half-track? Oh, okay, so the American half-track has auto-reinforce. Well, they're probably going to, I hope, standardize that or streamline it into something. So it either all of them has it or none of them has it, similar to what they actually did in CoH3 after 10 years with the half-tracks, which was cool with the healing, if you guys remember that, which was streamlined, and I think that's good. So they probably will if they haven't already.
Because like pioneers or like engineers, you can build sandbags to help you out if you want, like if you're trying to capture a point that is close to the enemy. So in that first engagement, you might actually have the advantage because you are behind green cover and the enemy has not that cover and has to actually get close to you. And then
whoa, is that a Hellcat doing that damage?
Because you are behind green cover and the enemy has not that cover and has to actually get close to you.
That's a Hellcat.
And then we also have probably the widest variety of bunkers available. So you start with your concrete bunker, the basic bunker, like pretty much like in CoH1. And you have 3 upgrades available. Oh, look at these grades.
Oh, do you get it?
Oh, close.
Bit interesting bug there. When they throw the grenade, the weapon upgrade disappears.
Oh wait, you agreed for this? Oh god.
I tried to go for that, yeah. Hopefully the squad will stay alive. So about bunkers, going back to that. So yes, you start with your concrete bunker, and you can upgrade it to either an HMG, so it's like a very defensive bunker, or you can get a repair station. So very good if you want to play with vehicles.
See if the grenade launcher does anything to the vehicles.
To repair them.
Oh, it's not even gonna fire.
So you just go back to the repair bunker and you get repaired. And a medic bunker, which will heal your troops and collect casualties. So you can like make sure that your squads are healed when they are like, if you don't want to retreat to your base. And also we have a lot of like defensive weapons, like we talked about the HMG, we talked about the flag gun, the pack, all those weapons. We mentioned them as defense.
This thing is flashing. Does that mean it's active? It looks like a passive to me, though.
Because they are not really good if they fight alone. They need to be supported by other units.
The defensive nature comes very much from the fact that the German units, while very powerful in their respective roles, do have very clear weaknesses. And in general, the individual unit of the German army isn't as flexible as, say, the American. But that just means that as a collective, like behemoth steamroller, they're really good. So they are still very good on the attack, but it does take more of them to get going.
God damn.
They are still active. Like,
Martyr rotate rate.
They're really good. So they
Can't really seem to flank it. That's gonna be fine-tuned. There's no way it's gonna rotate that fast. That's quite
the
ridiculous.
collective like behemoth steamroller, they're really good. So they are still very good on the attack, but it does take more of them to get going. And it takes a little bit more deliberation, a little bit more setup, or a little bit more planning to kind of get a really good offensive going with them. While as the American faction, most of your units are very good on the attack just individually. And
Yeah, to some degree, Gabok, to some degree. It's just, I think it's a bit sad that they're moving away from specialized units like tank destroyers. Because that's where you get like, that's where you can do like interesting unit comps. You can do like, you need specialized units to make things interesting, because that's where you get counters and stuff from. If everything is just, what do you call them? Medium tanks in CoH3, for instance, they're all the same, right? Or pretty much the same. There's no like counters to anything. They're all just average stuff, average anti-everything. And it's more moving more in that direction, where specialist units are slowly disappearing, right? It's not like this unit has one single row. Like some of the most interesting units in CoH2 are like the 80 guns and the machine guns, where you like flank and they're heavily specialized in their duty. I mean, look at the Eierhoff track, for instance. I think that's really cool. You know, it's like very specialized. Now, is it useful? Depends on the balancing, right? But I wish they did more specialized, because that's when you know, you can do counters and your build actually matters, you know, to some degree, I think. Personally.
kind of want to be having them come from different angles, taking different kinds of fights, and exploiting the weaknesses of the German units.
Yeah, balance
the more you can isolate them,
a bit all
the
over
more
the
you
place,
can
but that's
break
fine,
them
I think.
apart into different fights, the easier it is to kind of exploit the
But yeah,
weaknesses.
the JLI seem good.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of victory points, it's fairly even. You know, the Wehrmacht have a bit of an advantage here.
Bit strange,
you know,
they pop out on the sides here. It's probably a
Wehrmacht have
bug.
a bit of an advantage here.
They didn't use the door.
Again, what's sort of the next decision point for both of you here? And like, if you were
I
playing as
lost
the
versus
USF,
Orange
what
Pest,
would you say they would have to do to
unfortunately.
sort of like gain back?
Look what he's building over here, champ. Why isn't all... I'm gonna make a hot take. Why isn't all support weapons like the drag around flak? Why is he making this here? It's so... it makes no sense.
Back their advantage that they had earlier.
Marco, you want to
There
say
is
that?
something being built
Yeah,
there.
sure. So I feel right now the US players might identify that we are trying to consolidate the ground on the center and the north, which is basically opening up the flank for the south, which is actually what's happening, for the American player to be aggressive.
Look at the... It's getting like burnt. The Panzer IV.
So they could spearhead from the south and actually flank us to the center. So for the Americans, it's really now about to use their vehicles at their best and like get that window of opportunity for the Shermans and the Hellcat to shine and deal as much damage as possible. And for us instead, it's more about consolidating the ground and in my case to invest in either the tier 4 and the Panzers or go for the Tiger. Wait and go for the Tiger.
Right. What about you, Jason? What are you kind of thinking about?
It's a flak 38. What was the flak he drags around? Isn't that also a 38? The one he drags around, you know? That you get?
Now, at this point, I was very cheeky and was able to destroy that armor, but your stug really scared me off there.
Yeah, so anti
88? No, it's a 38. What's the one? It's also a
tank is
flak
still
38. Okay,
the
I see.
question of the day right now. I'm feeling really good anti-infantry wise.
No, I'm not talking about the flak 88.
Jaegers, and
That's
I have
only
no
in
more.
DAC, I
So,
think.
I'm feeling pretty good on the anti-infantry front.
I'm talking about the
But,
very one.
I'm a little worried about armor here. I think I
So
got
they
a
are the same, but this one is an emplacement for some reason.
Panzer IV and it immediately died because you know, right? So now I think I build the 88 here later on to kind of secure my setup.
Right. Marco, I think someone was asking about you were explaining the VP mechanic changes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you
VP
finished your
mechanic.
thought there.
Yeah, so basically, to sum up the changes, the VP rate, so the time you see those victory points to be updated is no more 4 seconds, it's 3 seconds. And actually, it's really a minor change that matters only in one situation, when you triple cap your opponent, or if you are triple capped. So this time around, we wanted to, like, if you're able to get all the VPs on the map, we want players to be able to, like, really get the advantage there.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the numbers. I'm talking about the name of the unit. Just to be clear, Ver has that one unit that we discussed in the last game where he dragged around the little flag. I was asking, are these two flags the same units? Because this is an emplacement, but are they the same? What do you mean? It's the same thing. So this is the same. Why is this an emplacement then? It's so odd. One moves, one doesn't. Why not? Why can't this move? Yeah, I get it from, but why do we have to do that? Why can't we move our units? Why can't we maneuver and shit? Why do we have to do that? I don't know. I think it's just wasted potential, you know? Wouldn't it be cooler if you could get that tier? Maybe? You know?
It's hard to do because,
I'm
like,
just
even
being
in
nitpicky.
this case where we have good map control, we
He's
still don't
building
have
one.
the 3 VPs, and the game
I
is
thought only
still
Dak
fairly
had
balanced.
placated, but I guess this one can't move either. Why is the UI black? It's probably my background you're thinking of. I had to make it a bit smaller to fit my camera. I could remove my camera though if you just want the gameplay.
So in situations like either you have 2 VPs and the enemy has 1 VP, the game is going to last still a very long time. Over, like, probably over 30, 40 minutes.
Pioneers casually as making
But
barbed
if you
wire
have
here.
a consistent advantage through the game, the game is going to end soon, which is actually what we want.
Right. So
Off-mapping?
do you feel that that's going to help encourage, like, teamwork? Oh, that was devastating.
It
help
can
encourage
anti-air as well.
teamwork
Still
in,
alive! Oh,
in
no.
some of the in some of the larger team games, and that, like, people maybe not necessarily be as focused on their own lane and are trying to actually capture all those victory points to get, like, collaboratively.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we are.
Yeah, he didn't brace Kappa.
As for everything,
I
we are
doubt it
still,
has brace.
everything is still
Surely they didn't go that
under
far.
work. So if we understand that this is a nice charge from the
Runs straight into a
from the
Panther
bazooka
Good.
team, but
Jesus.
Yeah.
Trying
Awesome.
to satchel my tank.
Man, the game looks so much fun.
But actually, since you are touching
looks
upon
good,
that,
chat.
4 versus
We're still
4, 2 versus
watching,
2,
yes,
like,
Chelsea.
beating games
We're
are
gonna
also,
play soon. I kind of got stuck
an
at it.
aspect that we evaluated
was fun.
when we thought about this.
Yeah, we did
change,
see
because, in those games,
the
sometimes
Greyhound one-shot the full
if your
HP
team
Pioneer
plays really
earlier,
well,
so...
and you hold all the VPs, you still have
You
to
know,
wait,
there are only 3
like,
models.
quite a long time for the game to end. And we wanted to speed things up.
I really love the bouncing effect. It looks so sick. Look at this thing, verbal wind, whatever. Verbal wind arena, Ostwind shit. It shoots at this, which is a Hellcat, and the rounds fly up in the air, and then they explode mid-air. It looks so
the
cool.
game to end. And we wanted to speed things up a little bit.
Looks so
we
cool.
are also conscious that since we are using a different resource system compared to Company Virus 2, things might play differently in terms of, like, how you invest your resources into your units. Oh, look at the tank.
Yeah, I was just kind of zooming in to see, like, the difference between, like, a tank that's been on the field for a while, or a piece of armor that's been on the field for a while, and one that.
So you can see this one is, like, dirty. It's got dust all over it, and this one just took a shot here. You can actually see the shot right on the cross, the Iron Cross logo. So really cool. You can see the differences here, right, Chan? Visible wind would penetrate. Well, I guess that depends. This is a game after all, and on that, you know, distance, you could kind of say it's far away, right? Even though it's not far away in game, but you could say because all gun ranges are like 35 meters, which doesn't make any sense because that's not what would happen either, you know. So for game's sake, I think it makes sense because then you can maybe imagine that the verbal wind was firing at the Jack or the Hellcat from far away, and then it makes more sense. The Balkenkreuz, is that the cross? Chat is never happy. Me neither. I mean, they shouldn't be. You know, we are the most entitled customers there is, but it's because we want a good game, right? So, I mean, I've been very critical watching through this. This map did a lot better though than the last map. We talked about it earlier, but it becomes really apparent when you watch this. Let's just talk about this again, shall we? So if we open Paint, people were praising the UI, can you believe it? And I agree, the UI looks very good. But once again, the areas I want to see improvement is in actual functionality. And the map, the playable areas, this is the playable fucking area right here. It's 1/2, if even that, a quarter of the UI that's taking over the edge here. If I'm a player who doesn't want to spend my time staring at the tactical map 24/7, I'm gonna be using this critical piece of information quite a bit. And it's so fucking small. Why is it so small? Like, you can't tell anything. I can't even tell that this is not a cutoff and it does not cut off these 3 fuel points. Well, I can because I'm showing it to you. But it's very hard to tell. And if I'm micromanaging a unit here, right? Right here. And then I want to see like what's happening over here. How do you tell? It's so small. It's so small. I just like, I don't understand some of these decisions. Like, this should just be larger. I don't think they've showcased tactical map yet. But if I don't want to stare, I want to watch the game, you know. I don't want to stare at a map all day. I want to be able to use this tool called the minimap, right? It's so important in CoH, in any RTS game. And they make it like this small. It's, I don't know, I get surprised every time I see it. It's like, you know, if they play the game, you know, they should be so obvious that this is not going to be good in like a couple of years. Similar to in CoH3, it's not good. But yeah, there's definitely areas for improvement, and as long as we stay vocal, I'm sure they will improve. I mean, they have improved quite a bit. But it's like, you know, this is really important that they fucking nail from the start, because 5 years from now, they're not gonna nail it. They can tweak sliders and numbers all they want, but they're not gonna tweak this. So it's really important that they get this right, I think. So yeah. Let me cross this down. Where were we?
This variety of bunkers available. So you start with...
Oh yeah, here was the tank destroyer killing the machine gun.
Wait, like...
Armor and powerful airstrike.
I think we were about here.
So,
also, Jesus, look at those machine guns on the Sherman there. Look at that.
So I'm looking
3
to
machine guns.
capture that, but like on the left, I'm starting to set up a really powerful defense. I have an 88 set up, and I have a machine gun, and I have the Kettenkrad acting as some recon.
Also, goats are still here, or horses, or whatever they are. They might be donkeys, actually. Might be a tribute to video game donkey.
And now, yeah, so I finally push up and capture the VP here. So basically, again, my game plan is very much capture territory when it's weak.
What is that active he just used?
And then so I finally have the Kettenkrad acting as some...
Oh, it's an off map, that's what it is. Okay,
now,
I see.
yeah, so I finally push up and capture...
They ate the horse, remember?
So basically, again, my game plan is very much capture territory when it's weak, and then also secure it and dig in and let the Americans wear themselves out on me.
Oh, we can briefly talk about the upgrade that Jason just got for the side skirts. So there is a late game upgrade that you can get on your tier 4, and actually affects a lot of vehicles, a lot of tanks from the factions. And this time around, we as players might know, we don't have just the front and rear armor. We also have side armor, and those armored skirts are actually helping in that regard with the side armor. So let's say that your opponent is able to flank you, the side armor is going to
it
help
looks
you a
phenomenal.
little bit in regards and prevent all those shots to like penetrate. Oh, this is nice. We
yeah.
have a tiger facing the Hellcat.
Yeah, it looks like were able to get it out just in time. So you think this is gonna throw Darren on the back foot here and allow you to like just set up shop here on this side of the map?
It's definitely
Allow you to
What
like
was
just
that miss?
set up shop here
Elevation,
on
chat.
this side of the map.
it's definitely going to allow me to push a little bit. As you can see, I do
Imagine aiming for a target like 2 kilometers away and then you hit fucking dirt in front of you. I don't know, maybe that's accurate. Maybe that happened, but still, like elevation all over again.
it's definitely going to allow me to push a little bit. As you can see, I do have a repair bunker there. That is oh, wait, actually that's probably destroyed.
I think that's destroyed now.
So yeah, as I told you, I've invested a lot on anti-infantry, and now the Tiger is just the perfect unit for me to complement my strategy. And so yeah, that's probably that's my final tier unit.
God damn,
And also, I
that shot
wanted
though.
to briefly go back to Veterancy. If we look at the game right now, this is a scenario that a lot of CoH3 players will feel unfamiliar with, because the majority of the units, basically almost all units in the game, are either Vet 1 or Vet 2. So just to reiterate that this time around, it's not every game you're eventually going to get every squad to Vet 3.
No.
Which means that we want to bring back the emphasis on if you are a good player and you do like a good play, you can get to Vet 3, and Vet 3 really matters in terms of how your units will perform. But you also still have to be very careful about that, so keep your units alive. Squad preservation is very, very important. And on top of that, I also want to say something about Veterancy.
Yes, grunts are
again.
6-man.
It's not so when your units have higher Veterancy, maybe this is a bit of a nuance, but when your units have higher Veterancy,
It's not CoH3
the
grunts though, I'll
enemy
tell you
can
that.
get more experience fighting you, because they are fighting more.
I think their intent is it's more similar to Osttruppen in a way. Like the grunts are more Osttruppen, like, or conscripts for that matter. They get merged and stuff like that. And they can build like sandbags. But the intent is that you replace the grenadiers with the elite infantry, because you get like different transfers you can do with the Jaeger squads or Panzer grenadiers. So they're more of a fodder here than they are in CoH3, for instance.
Experienced troops. So there is a sort of catch-up mechanic there to
Oh, the
help out
Hellcat is
players,
completely
not
soloing the
feel
Tiger.
overwhelmed by vetted squads. Oh, the Tiger might go down actually.
Yeah, that Hellcat's getting a little cheeky trying to get behind you, but
Ooh.
yeah, it wasn't quite
Oh.
enough.
Yeah, it wasn't quite enough. I was able to use the road to help me out, backing a little bit. Roads do help you with acceleration and speed, so that actually helped me out.
Yeah. Another question I saw in the chat was another audio question. It was specifically about fun voice lines. You know, like when you know
God
when you have
damn, that Hellcat is fast! Look
question I
at
saw
that
in the
fast
chat
boy,
was
dude!
another audio question.
Starts
was
accelerating
specifically
here like
about,
crazy.
Fun voice lines. You know, like when you know when you clicked on a unit over and over and over again, and they got annoyed with you. Are we gonna do stuff like that, or are there gonna be more rare voice lines that we hear, kind of Easter eggs, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. You can really have a lot of fun. I know there are some Easter eggs, but I'm not going to spoil anything. But yeah, we have various ways for units to interact with you. You have your intel, so there is a third-person voice talking to you about how the game's going, the tech. Then your units, so you can click on them, they reply to you. If you click on them too many times, they might get a bit upset. And when they get close to certain assets in the game, they might trigger unique voice lines. And when they are idle for a long time, they might trigger unique, very, very unique and rare voice lines. So we really want to bring back the uniqueness of our voices. I think this time, and I would like to emphasize it, we have so many more units, so many more actors, so many more voices than any other CoH game. We have so many more voice lines than anything you have experienced before. So I'm sure players will be pretty happy about that.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. So it looks like this match is about to ramp down. I feel bad. I let down Darren. I think I was an weight around his ankles. But yeah, GG. So
GG.
yeah, coming off of that game here, Jason, what were your big takeaways from that match in that TV2? Like how were you playing a little bit differently than in the first game that we saw? And what do you think sort of helped you and Marco secure that victory there? Sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. So I just wanted people to leave that these games with the idea that like the Germans are kind of this, you know, heavyweight boxer that will punch you from the face or in the face from the front. Very much different from the more mobile Americans that we kind of described earlier. But at the same time, they don't have to play that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've built in a lot of through the battle groups, through different tech structures. There's still a lot of build variety as the Germans. So there's a lot to look forward to. You have really powerful specialist units, whether that be the more and more increasingly more powerful infantry that you can get as the Germans that none of the other factions do, whether that be the really powerful team weapons that you can specialize into, or the heavy armor that the Germans get. And they also have powerful upgrades in terms of their allowing them to get veterancy early, allowing you to really double down on a certain strategy or a certain structure, tech structure, and really focus on getting your maximum power out of that. Right. So, yeah. So while we say, you know, the units of the German army aren't quite as flexible as, say, like the American ones, the overall army, however, is very, very much able to do whatever you want to do. And you know, we kind of showed it off, but we didn't really say it too much. But this army, the German army, also has access to pretty much everything. Like any kind of problem in their way, they can solve it with multiple solutions, whether it be flamethrowers, grenades, heavy armor, indirect, all that kind of thing. It's all built into the faction. So yeah, so you have a lot of powerful units. You just have to be a little bit more careful in terms of what you get, and also very careful in terms of how you use them together. To all together create this heavyweight attacker / defender. Yeah, that's a little bit more advanced, but also really really rewarding to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So sorry, I did want to bring up this other question that I saw in the chat because I think it's kind of important. The last time players played with the Wehrmacht in December of last year, we had the field marshal system, and now it looks like we've taken that out. So Jason, I'm wondering if you could address what we were trying to do there, and maybe why it's not present anymore.
So very broadly, we've integrated a lot of the elements of the field marshals into the base army. But yeah, we ended up not going with the field marshal system because we found, while it was really novel and really cool, there were a lot of significant issues with the system.
Right.
It caused a lot of different kinds of problems in terms of complexity, making the game harder to understand, especially as the opponent. And there was a lot of other issues with it. So we've kind of taken out a lot of the fun parts of the field marshal, and we kind of put it into the just the default army.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think the army right now is really solid and has basically everything it needs. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like one of those things, anytime in development, we're always experimenting with new systems and new ideas, and those are always evolving as we go through the development process. Marco, I'm curious, what were some of your big takeaways from some of the matches that we watched there, and maybe what do you want to leave players with as we get closer to launch here?
Okay, so the big takeaways that I've seen is that in this game, I believe in the 2v2 especially, we played quite a lot together. We mixed our units. Jason helped me out in some moments. I helped him out in other moments. So it's really important when you play Wehrmacht in team games to really try to play together, because your units have weaknesses.
Right.
But if you do play well with your partner or your partners, you can actually completely remove those weaknesses because your units are really good to complement each other. So I really think that Wehrmacht will be a great faction in team games and not just one versus one. And then another takeaway, actually, another thing I wanted to touch upon is that we have seen some of the deflections, misses, so what we define as RNG. And I think it's a very big topic that we as designers, but also as players, have faced and dealt with for many, many years. We truly believe that RNG is part of the heart of this game, but
Are they talking about RNG?
as in team games and not just one, because your units are really good to complement each other. So I really think that Wehrmacht will be a great faction in team games and not just one versus one. And then another takeaway, actually, another thing I wanted to touch upon is that we have seen some of the deflections, misses, so what we define as RNG. And I think it's a very big topic that we as designers, but also as players, have faced and dealt with for many, many years. We truly believe that RNG is part of the heart of this game, but it has to be really dealt with in a way that the player can feel always in control.
Right.
So Jason here, but also the other
Very
designers, me, Miguel, and everyone, actually, we are very conscious that players should be consistently feeling in control of the action and that their units perform. So RNG is definitely going to be something much like lower in terms of impact than other games, especially.
Jason is smiling. Who do you think he's thinking of? No, it's I agree with this mostly. It's just that in the past, in CoH3 specifically, RNG has not been done in the way he's addressing at all. So hopefully they will do that better. He's thinking of me, maybe. Yo, okay, by the way, nice to see you. This has not been done in the past. It's what he's saying, basically. We want to get this right this time around. So I agree with this. I think definitely RNG should be in there, but you know, to what extent? And it's very important to make sure that the players are in control of it, which is why it's so good that they added side armor, for instance, because that means flanking actually rewards more. So that's really good, I think. But also stuff like one-shotting important units, that's where I think it's gone too far. Which we also saw a light vehicle in the very first game they showed, one-hitting the Pioneer, because the Pioneer is only 3 models. And that's a light vehicle one-hitting the Pioneer. It's not like, you know, it's not a super heavy tank with the most expensive super late call-in. It's a light vehicle one-hitting a Pioneer. And that Pioneer, while it is quite cheap for us here, it's only like, what, 100 and, what did you say, 150 manpower or something? That can still be very important. And I mean, the Obers, they're only one more guy, you know, stuff like that. That's when I think it gets too far, because that can literally decide games so hard, and you can't really play around that whatsoever. You're basically, you know, it's not the player's input in either direction that makes that engagement happen. It just happened, and it's just out of both players' hands. You know, it really sucks. The worst crit in CoH3 is the 5% no death crit in CoH1. Doesn't even have visual signifiers, just poof, doesn't die. Okay, I'm not quite familiar with what you're thinking of. Yeah, main gun crit is obviously an obvious bullshit mechanic that they hopefully don't have. CoH2 with abundance, yes. I mean, you can have those mechanics, but why do they make them based on RNG, right? It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a flat 20%, which is outside of player control. You can implement abundance or main gun crits in so many different ways. One very obvious comparison here I want to make is, imagine if snares was RNG based, so snares only happened maybe 10% of the time. Would you think that would be fun to play? It wouldn't be, because it's a shit idea. And same with abandons. Maybe abandons only happens if you get the kill critical on the vehicle with a flamethrower or something. You know, you can make it in so many different ways where it's actually in control of player hands and not a flat 20% that happens. Yeah, pretty much, Bucko Burns. Yes, all tanks in CoH3 are abandoned because you can requisition them. True. But yeah, I think the most offending shit is when it's outside of player control and when it's too swingy. Like an anti-tank gun missing a tank that's, you know, that is outside of the player hands, literally. But it also generally doesn't decide as many games as an abandon can, or a main gun crit can, or a one-shot squad can, you know. Jason in the middle, his nickname was Tarnation, Zeroko.
Compared to CoH1.
Okay.
And no
So,
crazy
I like this statement.
things like airplanes that might kill your whole army. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Try to stay away from the stuff that's unfun for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's a net negative. It's not a net positive. Like both players feel like shit. It's net negative.
But that said, we are working on that with the community. So
what else was there? What did I think about the Wehrmacht faction? I don't know, but Wehrmacht felt like a campy faction to me in this game. Also, 6-man Grenadiers are building short sandbags for some reason, unlike cons in CoH2. Yeah, so I think the short sandbags is like you're supposed to make multiple, which means you can make kind of cool shapes, so you don't have those line shapes everywhere. I think it's only for visuals, really, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. From what I've seen of Ver, it's probably the one that's the most similar to CoH2 UKF. You have all of those side techs. You have like very, like you say, they are very, not campy, I wouldn't say, but they are very stationary. And, you know, getting hull down on all your units and stuff like that. It's, Wehrmacht is also always a defensive faction by nature. No, I'm not complaining. I'm just being critical, you know. It's not complaints yet. I'll start complaining once the game releases. But I definitely would have wanted a more mobile, but I hope you can still play it mobile. I'm sure you can. But yeah, from what I've seen, it reminds me a lot of CoH2 UKF, to be honest. Because you have the all the side techs, you know, you don't have to, I mean, from what we've seen of the other factions as well, you don't use your builders to build stuff. It automatically happens, which is basically UKF, right? CoH2 UKF is the only faction that work that way, and to some extent maybe USF, you click a button to tech. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to prepare anything, you don't have to get a unit in a certain location, you just click a button. And that's from what we have seen every single faction in CoH3 so far. Which makes it, you know, it feels like UKF a bit because of that, because the teching really does a lot to faction identity, in my opinion. Like OKW feels very different to Soviets, for instance, because of the way they tech, right? But yeah, also a lot of side techs. When I see side techs, I also think UKF, because UKF has so many side techs. But yeah.
Definitely, we are all ears in terms of like feedback on how, based on this gameplay, if you see something off, just point it out and we can look at that.
Awesome. No, that's good to hear. So a bit of a longer stream, but I know we had a lot to cover there, folks. So really appreciate if you watched all the way through this. Again, if you want to stay up to date with everything that we are doing on Company of Heroes 3, be sure to follow us on.
No, you don't have to get another Pio though, Zeroko. In CoH2 that would hurt you, but here it doesn't, because you don't have to get the Pio to get tier 2. You don't need any builders to tech.
On your platform of choice, at Company of Heroes. Join the Discord, discord.gg/Company of Heroes, and you can chat with us there. You can ask all your questions or start up a new thread. Follow us right here on Twitch, or subscribe to us on YouTube at Company of Heroes, or sign up for CoH3.
So let's play some CoH2.